1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
My summer is going to be ruined. They're going to put a pin in my right pinky, so I'm not going to be able to do anything for about 4 weeks.
Do you think you could live stream your pinky surgery?
Does anyone know? Am I unconscious for that?
No, that's a local anesthesia. When I got my wisdom teeth, I was actually living in New York City. Usually you're supposed to have someone come meet you at the doctor's office once you're under general anesthesia.
I like where this is going.
Yes, but I was alone. I didn't have anyone to come, so they were like, oh, we'll just get you a taxi cab. And I don't know what I told the guy about where I lived, but all of a sudden, I'm seeing the numbers getting higher and higher and higher. I lived all the way downtown. They had to go all the way around, and he dropped me off. I had him drop me off at a supermarket, and I bought God knows what.
Ice cream.
Yeah, ice cream.
That sounds like a good time.
La-di-da.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Friday edition of Maggie and Perloff across many of these great CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, and that free Odyssey app. 855-212-4CBS is the number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing at Zach Gelb, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. So Maggie and Perloff were on earlier today, filling in for the legendary Jim Rome. So you get Zach Gelb here for the next 3 hours, all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. The voice of the NBA, Mike Breen, is going to join us coming up 15 minutes from now, and Antonio Daniels will stop by at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. But when I was told that I was going to be filling in today, I usually wouldn't take a shift if there was a demand that was being made. But there was a demand, as there was a great concern here on CBS Sports Radio, that if I filled in, I would just ruin this piece of trash poster that's sitting behind me. Now, if you are aware, the Maggie and Perloff show, we got to get those subscribers up, and we're keep on trying to get those subscribers to where they need to be, and then we will burn, is my understanding. We will burn this disgusting Carson Wentz poster. So, Samter, you're kind of my security guard today, and you are the Udonis Haslem here, serving as the enforcer, because Perloff told me, he looked me right in the eyes right before I got in here, and he said, that poster better be here on Monday. So if I look like I'm going to be the Wentz destroyer here, and destroy that Carson Wentz poster, you may need to run on in here and try to fight me.
I can definitely take you down. I mean, there's no question in my mind that I could take you out. Maybe if EJ comes and helps me out, It'll just be like a secondary bodyguard, but I don't think I even need any help. The reality of the question I want to know is, why do you hate Carson Wentz so much?
Well, I covered him in Philadelphia. I was a big-time believer in Carson Wentz. and everything I thought he was ended up being completely false. And he's a total fraud. He's a bad teammate. He's a bad quarterback. And quite frankly, he will no longer be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And I don't think his ego can take being a backup quarterback. So, do you know how many subscribers we are away until the entire network has to stop getting tormented by this poster?
We're just under 400 subscribers away.
Oh, so we're pretty damn close.
We're close. We're definitely more than halfway there.
So, folks, please, for my mental sanity, get to the 400-something subscribers that they need more so we can get this poster out of the studio. Now, Samter, I'm not going to break any rules here. I try to follow the rules. This is not going to be me destroying the poster here, because I'll follow Perloff's rule that this poster has to stay in one piece, but I may just throw it across the room. Now, it will be there in one piece. It may not be standing on Monday, but it's there. So there goes the poster right out of the gate. And I know the Weekdays and the Purple Drinkers on the YouTube chat probably are all giving me a standing ovation. At first, they're probably like, oh, we get Gelb for 3 hours. Oh, we have to look at that mug. And then I throw the Carson Wentz poster, and I think I play for the crowd and perform for the crowd. I'm kind of like a dog. I just sat down, danced, rolled over, and then I'll get the treat from the Weekdays and the Purple Drinkers, probably coming up at 4:20 p.m. Eastern, if we're being fair. And I would imagine, not that I'm looking at the chat right now, that I'm getting a standing ovation. So there goes the poster. The poster will not be behind me today when I do this show. I have standards around here. I don't know if those standards are pretty high, but they're higher than Carson Wentz.
I'm making it my goal for the rest of the show to sneak that damn thing back behind you at some point without you noticing.
Well, when you were on paternity leave, and congratulations to you and your lovely bride, Susan. And no, Samter did not bring in any breast milk today. We were going to do the Josh Hart challenge. We were going to maybe try Samter's wife's breast milk, but Samter never tried it, and he wasn't willing to bring any in, so I was a little bit disappointed. I had Oreos all ready to go in the locker. I was set to go, do a little Casamigos shot of the day with some Casamigos, and then the breast milk, and have some Oreos. I was all ready to go, but Samter asked his wife, and then I think his wife slapped him, is the way that I was told about how this story did go down.
She took my phone out of my hand and was texting you.
Yeah, I did get a text from your wife last night. She said, hey, this is Susan. Please stop with the breast milk stuff. And then Samter goes, LOL, JK, it's just me. So there you go. So we don't have any breast milk here on CBS Sports Radio today. We don't have any Carson Wentz poster, thankfully. But we did have an NBA Finals Game 1 last night. And here's what I'll say about NBA Finals Game 1. I looked at this series going in that the Heat, and this was just out of respect because Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler are phenomenal. They had a minuscule chance, a very little chance to win this series. If you look at Denver, from top to bottom of their roster, they're just a better team. And you know that Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, from a 1-2 punch perspective, are going to show up a lot more consistently than Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Because Jamal Murray has proven, when healthy, he's a number 2 on a championship team. But Bam Adebayo is sometimes a number 2, but then looks like a number 3. He's kind of like a 2.5. And I think on most teams around the league, Bam Adebayo, who's a really, really good player, is more of a 3 than a 2 on a championship team. Now, the ironic part is Bam Adebayo showed up last night. Jimmy Butler did not. And I know everyone is talking in a very positive way about the Joker in Nikola Jokic, and he's been phenomenal. He is marvelous. But I didn't even think from an offensive standpoint, scoring the basketball last night, he was all that great, and he still led the team in scoring. And he is a walking triple-double. When you see the performance last night where he could have been better, and he still had 27 points, 14 assists, and 10 rebounds. So my takeaway from this game last night is that Miami, they better win game 2. In a building which, by the way, and we know how great Miami has been on the road this postseason. Up against the Bucks, they took game 1. Up against the Knicks, they took game 1. Up against the Celtics, they took game 1. But up against Denver, they didn't take game 1. And that's a building in Denver Ball Arena where the Nuggets haven't lost one home playoff game this postseason. So if Miami wants to make this a series, and And I know, right, in years past, when you go way back, Miami was once down 0-2 to the Dallas Mavericks in 06 before they came back and won 4 straight to win that championship. But if Miami goes down 2-0 in this series, down 0-2, you could do the Vince Carter emoji. You could put the GIF out there. It's over. Because there is no way this Miami Heat team, even with how improbable it was that they got here, is going to be able to come back in an 0-2 hole up against a great and an underappreciated Denver Nuggets team. And you look at last night, what makes Denver so great is you never know who's going to get hot. Like for a while, right out of the gate, Gordon was hot. Then it was Jamal Murray. Then it was the Joker. You have Michael Porter Jr. Brown gives you good minutes off the bench as well. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope didn't even play well last night from an offensive standpoint. They have so many pieces now in a league of dynamic duos where you don't really have a super team, where they are clearly the best team in the league. And a lot of people have been doubting them, even though they were the 1 seed. A lot of people haven't been believing in them, even entering the playoffs. And now sitting here up 1-0, if they win game 2 on Sunday night, turn out the lights, the party's over, and this series is over. Your only prayer in this series, if you're a neutral basketball fan, is for Miami to win game 2, and maybe, just maybe, we'll end up having a longer series and a long series. But I think Denver's going to win this thing in either 5 or 6 games, and 6 is, at this point, is extremely benevolent. This feels like Miami will get 1, and Denver will win this baby in 5 games. It is Zach Gelb here in for Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a timeout. The man who called the NBA Finals last night is Mike Breen, and he'll join us on the other side.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio. Zach Gelb filling in today. Game 1 of the NBA Finals last night. Denver takes it 104-93. Denver still has not lost a home playoff game this postseason. And the man that was on the call last night was, of course, Mike Breen, who joins us right now. Mike, appreciate the time. How you been?
Good, Zach. How about yourself?
Well, I'm doing fantastic and really do appreciate you jumping on board with us. What was your biggest takeaway from last night, Mike?
I think everybody that thought that there could be some rust for the Nuggets quickly found out that that wasn't the case, that the Nuggets did a great job of staying ready and staying in rhythm. I also think that the grueling 7-game series that the Heat played with and then the fly and come with the altitude did have an impact. But Denver was just too good last night. Jokic he's just magnificent. But I would hesitate anyone or to have anyone, make definitive proclamations after just one game. Don't overreact to one great win or one great loss. I'm very curious to see what Miami's going to do on Sunday.
What type of effort do you think we'll see from this Miami Heat team coming up in game number 2 on Sunday evening?
Well, their effort is never in question, never. That's why they're here, because they just play so hard. They're so competitive. But they've got to figure things out. I mean, Jokic was dominating the game in the first half, and he took 3 shots. So you got to figure out, what's the best way to defend him? Do you let him score and not make sure that everybody is getting involved? Do you double team him and make the others beat you? Do you do a little bit of both? Eric Spoelstra is brilliant, just a brilliant coach, and they'll figure something out. Now, Jokic might be just too good and too big because size is certainly a factor in this series. But the one thing you'll know is that Miami will come ready to play hard, play competitive. Will it be enough? We'll have to see.
I kind of feel like the way to play Joker, especially when Mike Breen, Denver is just a better team on paper, and they're a deeper team, in my opinion, is you just got to let him eat and get his points and try to stop everybody else. I know it's easier said than done, but it's such a difficult thing that Spoelstra has to do in this series, because you just look at the construction of this Denver team. It felt like multiple times throughout the game last night, you were impressed with someone, and then 10 minutes later, you're impressed with somebody else. Yeah,
the thing about it, Zach, though, is that you can say, all right, we're going to go in and we're going to let him do all. He doesn't want to play that way. He's much more – he'd rather get the assist than score the bucket. But if the way for his team to win that night is to score, well, then he's going to be aggressive scoring. But that's what's so brilliant about him, is that his ability to adjust, his ability to read the defense. He's seen every kind of regular defense, every kind of gimmick defense that can be thrown at him. his court vision is just off the charts. So you might go in saying, okay, we're going to do this to Jokic, and it just might not work because he has a way of figuring it out. The guy is he's one of the most incredible players I've ever seen.
Yeah, Mike, when you get ready to call a game for him, and you've seen some of the biggest stars to ever play this game, just what do you feel? Because there are times it feels like Nikola Jokic does get disrespected.
I wouldn't say he gets disrespected. What I would say is sometimes, and most great players are like this after a while, you start to take for granted just how great they are every single night. So if he doesn't get a triple-double, are you disappointed? If he doesn't, have 30, 15, and 13, are you disappointed? No, because all his whole goal every night, and this is, to me, always where the great players stand above the other ones, is that their goal is to win. It's not to accumulate stats. Their goal is to win. And that's his plan going in every night. He doesn't have a plan, all right, tonight I'm going to look to score. He sees what the defense gives him. That's what he reads, because that's what gives his team the best chance to win.
If you do get Tyler Hero in Game 2, and there's encouraging reports that he'll return either in Game 2 or Game 3, it keeps on going back and forth. What do you think he could realistically expect from Tyler Hero when he returns?
Oh, it's hard to tell, Zach, when you're out now. What was it, the 16th of April? So, it's a month and a half that he's been out. And the other problem is these other guys have played great. Now, certainly they didn't shoot well. Martin and Strus and Robinson didn't shoot particularly well last night. But they've been playing great basketball. One of the reasons why the Heat are in the finals is because of the way those guys have played, the way Martin now is fit into the starting lineup. So to bring in somebody who hasn't played in a month and a half, you've got to be careful not to upset the chemistry that's going. But with that said, Hero is a really good player because he's not just a three-point shooter. He's also become adept at playmaking, taking the ball to the basket. But it's an interesting decision for Eric Spoelstra. He's glad to have him back, but how much do you play him? He hasn't played in any of these playoffs except for the first game, so his conditioning's not going to be at the best possible situation. So it's a little bit of a quandary for a head coach to figure that out.
Mike Breen here with us. It seems like each and every night when you watch the Heat, there's someone else that steps up. It seems like Highsmith is deserving himself a few more minutes, Mike.
Yeah, Zach, that's one of the first things we said when we left the arena, that he played so well that it's going to give Eric Spoelstra some pause. All right, do I play him more? Certainly he's not the perimeter shooter of some of the other guys, but his defense is excellent. He's got really good defensive instincts. He is not afraid of the big moment. And I think there's a really good chance we'll see him play a lot of minutes again, just because he deserves it after where he played. He played spot minutes in the conference finals, didn't play a lot of minutes, but his minutes had a nice impact. So that's another one of the undrafted guys that they just seem to keep turning out that provides some great stuff for them.
Talking to the legendary Mike Breen, when you look back so far at this Miami run, Mike, it's all Butler and Spoelstra, right? The guys that we talk about, Pat Riley as well. But to see what Miami's done this postseason, we know they've been to a finals before with Jimmy Butler. It's just unbelievable, Mike, what they continue to do in Miami. With the roster that you look at it, as you just said, with all the undrafted guys, no one could have predicted this before the start of the postseason.
It's one of the most unlikely trips to the finals. And again, when you look back at their first play-in game is at home against Atlanta. They were down by 24. They made a bit of a comeback, but they still lost by I think 11 it was. So they lost a play-in game, and then in the next play-in game against Chicago that they had to win, they're trailing with under 3 minutes to go. So you're thinking during that, okay, maybe they survived this, but they're getting knocked out in the first round against Milwaukee, and then here they are in the finals. It's incredible, and it just goes to show you, yes, to win a title you have to have talent, but the game is still a five-man game, and there's nothing more beautiful in my estimation than five players on the court working together to overcome sometimes talent on the other team, but talent that doesn't play as well together.
I'm not saying super teams were bad, Mike Breen, because I don't believe that they were. But now we're in a league of dynamic duos where we truly don't know who's going to win this thing or who's going to get to the finals. Is that better for you as a broadcaster compared to the time of super teams?
They're both fun. This season, what has made this season so exciting for me is the unpredictable nature of it. You just don't know. And even the elite teams were unpredictable. Denver's probably the most consistent team all season, but whether it's Boston, Milwaukee, Philadelphia in the East, Golden State, the Lakers, Memphis, Sacramento, it was unpredictable on how good they could be. Part of that is because on a lot of nights you didn't know who was available to play. But to me, it made it exciting. But it's also fun when you have a super team. Can anybody knock them off? The David Goliath story. That's always fun as well. So either one is good. I really like this change this year because of the fact that you have two teams that are so well connected and play so well together.
On the way out with the legendary Mike Breen, I know you're on the call for the Western Conference Finals. After the game, a ton of speculation. Is that it for LeBron James? I fully believe he's coming back. Do you think that was the last game you called for LeBron?
No. I think he's going to play more. I hope he does, because look at the numbers he put up this year. He put up numbers this year in his 20th season that some Hall of Fame players didn't put up in their best season. He's one of the most remarkable athletes in the history of sports, and I love watching him play, and I hope I get to call a lot more games for him.
So if we got an alert this offseason, you would be shocked if he ended up retiring and walking away?
I would. I think he still loves playing. He's still playing at a great level, so I would be surprised, yes. But I have no inside information on that.
Mike Breen, before we let you run, how do you react to the whole Ja Morant situation? Clearly, we heard the comments of the commissioner yesterday, and everyone's expecting there to be a pretty lengthy and significant suspension.
My only hope there is that the young man figures out what's his best path and figures out just the right way for him going forward. He's a really talented player. He's clearly made some bad decisions. Haven't we all made bad decisions when we were younger? So I just hope that this is the real wake-up call for him. The first one obviously wasn't. So let's hope this one is a wake-up call, and he gets right back on the right path and gets back playing something that he plays so well and is one of the more dynamic players. So I'm rooting for him to get back and get himself in order.
Now, I'll end you on a jovial note, and I need a serious scouting report from you. EJ, who's on the other side of the glass, actually played on your basketball team with your son when Tim Capstraw was the head coach and you were the assistant coach. EJ told me that you gave it to the officials a little bit. How were you as an assistant coach back in the day, Mike Breen?
You know what? When I used to coach youth basketball, and I have so much respect for officials, my only complaint to refs back then was I was afraid players would get hurt, and if it started to get too rough, I'd kind of say, "All right, guys, let's start blowing a whistle a little bit more." But when you're reffing youth basketball, it's a no-win situation. I used to do it myself. It's not easy to do to try and maintain it, but I have fond memories of coaching youth basketball.
Were you like Pop? Who was the coach that you were like?
No. I was more. I was a little more mild-mannered than I'm being portrayed. Good shade here.
Mike Breen, have a great call. Rest of the finals. Really do appreciate you carving out some time for us today.
Okay, Zach, you got it, bud.
There he is, Mike Breen, joining us. So, EJ, how about that? You were on Mike Breen's son's basketball team? I never knew that until you told me that right before the show did commence. But what position did you play? Just wondering.
So I was like a shooting guard. So we played on the Long Island Lightning developmental team. Again, Tim Capstraw, who does radio for the Nets, was the head coach. Mike Breen at that time still doing Knicks play-by-play, but he was newer doing Knicks play-by-play. This might have been like his second or third year on the beat as a full-time Knicks play-by-play guy. It was a fun time. It was kind of wild. A lot of kids that age couldn't appreciate that the voice of the Knicks was coaching them. I think a lot of them were just happy to run up and down. I, as a kid,
did you know?
Knicks fan, I knew. I immediately, I was excited because I thought I was going to be playing with Tim Capstraw. The Breen part of it was a complete surprise. He showed up to the first day of practice, and I was stunned. And all the other kids don't care. Yeah. And his son Mike Jr. was on the team as well. And it was a lot of fun. It was a really good summer.
So what EJ just basically said is he was like, oh, Mike Breen's here. Screw Tim Capstraw. I'm all here for Mike Breen is what I was understanding. And I love Tim, but that's what it just sounded like when you said that.
Well, I am a Knicks fan, and I do the Knicks podcast. So, Knicks is more off my alley. But I definitely wanted to make sure I got enough shots up or in front of Breen, knowing that he would be calling games in the NBA.
When you made a shot, would he go bang?
No, Mike. As Mike mentioned, he was a really mild-mannered coach. He was definitely a very much a player's coach. Very encouraging. He was not somebody that was gonna run you through the coals or yell at you. He was much more of an encouraging voice in the locker room.
So what you were telling me pretty much here is basically my sources were wrong that Mike Breen wasn't berating any officials when you were a part of his youth basketball team.
No, I feel like Tim was more willing to get on the officials and because Tim is a fire. He's a coach. He's a true coach. Like he's someone he's a little more fiery than Mike, but they were a great tandem.
The legendary Larry Brown, by the way, he used to coach youth basketball. When he was in between getting fired or leaving some job in the Philadelphia surrounding area, a buddy of mine played basketball for Larry Brown in just some youth league basketball game. And the kid that played is like nothing close to actually being an athlete. This was a legitimate youth league basketball, and you had Larry Brown in that area, fresh off coaching like the Sixers to an NBA Finals run and all the other greatness that he's done coaching youth league basketball just because how addicted he is to the sport.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Larry Brown is a lifer by the absolute definition. Like he will coach
till he dies,
anything.
Literally.
Yeah,
he's going to coach until he dies, Larry Brown. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to see it anywhere. Like he may be 95 and coaching another rec league, but that's what Larry Brown feels like he was born to do, was to coach basketball.
Ironically enough, Larry Brown just signed on to coach our Saturday run out here in Manhattan. It's a little court, right? A little half-court game. Larry Brown is now taking over. It's fantastic.
Yeah, Larry actually texted me. He said Samter's players comp is Earl Boykins, actually, going back to the day. So
I'm glad it wasn't Muggsy Bogues, because that's the only one I can really get to.
That was like the low-hanging fruit. No pun intended right there. We will take a break here on CBS Sports Radio. We'll come on back. Russell Wilson last year said not so fast to one team that was really interested in him, and someone said the deal was actually done, but then Russ said, no thanks, I don't want to go there, before choosing the Denver Broncos. We'll tell you who that team is on the other side. But first up, standing by with the latest CBS Sports Radio update is CeeLo, Chris Lopresti.
Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, Frank Vogel is on the doorstep of a return to the NBA. According to multiple reports, the Phoenix Suns are finalizing a deal to make Vogel their next head coach after they parted ways with Monty Williams last month. Vogel has the 2020 championship on his resume with the Lakers. From the category of what could have been, perhaps in a bad way, and sorry to steal Zach's thunder here, Greg Bishop of SI.com recently claimed during a Seattle radio appearance that the Eagles wanted to trade for Russell Wilson last offseason, but Wilson declined to waive his no-trade clause to go to Philadelphia. He, of course, ended up in Denver, had a disappointing year while the Eagles rode Jalen Hurts all the way to the Super Bowl. Highlighting the Friday evening baseball schedule, Shohei Ohtani on the mound for the Angels and facing the Astros for the second time in less than a month. He's opposed by Framber Valdez. Yankees and Dodgers kick off an interleague series in L.A. Clayton Kershaw and Luis Severino, the starters there. And you've also got the other New York team hosting an interleague series, Mets and Blue Jays at Citi Field, where the Mets have won their last 8. Justin Verlander opposed by former Met Chris Bassett. Golf second-round action in the Memorial. Hideki Matsuyama, a 65 today to post the clubhouse lead at 7 under par. He is one shot clear of Patrick Cantlay and David Lipsky. I'm Chris Lopresti.
Hey, it's DA. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio. Oh, well, thank you. Zach Gelb in for Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio. Every time I fill in for Maggie and Perloff, I always get confused coming back from breaks just because there's not like a big voiceover guy. And they just casually come on back from breaks with the music playing, which I do kind of like. And EJ always does a good job on the tunes, but I always feel compelled to do the big voiceover kind of guy and be that person. So Zach Gelb for Maggie and Perloff all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. Hey, Samter, I have two things to run by you before we get into this Russell Wilson nonsense. What is this hot wings challenge that people are talking about in the chat? Is there some bet going on around here that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, so it started out that we were trying to determine how long this series was going to go. Not necessarily who was going to win, but how many games it would go.
Can I take a guess?
Sure.
I'm assuming this is between hosts?
It was between hosts and one of maybe our number one fan, Nick in Texas.
Oh, I like Nick. Nick's a good
Nick,
dude.
He started the Perloffs. He's like the Weedo of the Weedos. And so Nick called in. He kind of laid down a bet. And the bet was whoever got closest would have to, I guess whoever lost would have to eat the hot wings. Whoever got closest would win, and whoever lost would have to eat the hot wings. So
how hot are we talking about?
It's the Buffalo Wild Wings Blazing Hot Challenge, whatever it's called.
I have participated in that.
Yes. So it sounds rough. But what happened was, because there's obviously 4 different options to pick for the series to go, 4, 5, 6, or 7, and there are only 3 people taking part, Perloff, Maggie, and Nick, we decided that whatever the game was that wasn't selected, if that is the amount of time that it goes, then everybody has to eat the wings.
Gotcha.
So Perloff picked...
Wait, hold on. I'm going to assume, because Perloff thinks this is a boring NBA Finals. He's one of those people. He's been going after me on Twitter. He's been going after EJ on Twitter. He's been very disrespectful, if I may say, Andrew Perloff. He thinks this is going to be a quick NBA Finals, and he's probably not going to be wrong, even though I was disagreeing with him about this being... or Denver being a boring team. That I did not like from Andrew Perloff. I'm assuming that Perloff is saying quick NBA Finals, and Maggie is saying this is going to be a long NBA Finals.
No, they're both saying quick.
Oh, so Nick is the difference here?
Well, so yes. So Maggie was the first pick. She picked 5 games.
Okay.
Saying that it's not likely that we're going to have a sweep, that at least there'll be the gentleman's sweep. Perloff then had the next pick. He deferred his pick, allowed Nick to pick next. So Nick picked 6 games, and Perloff picked the sweep rather than 7 games.
So this is the most confusing bet of all time.
So Perloff has the series in 4 games.
No, I
Maggie
understand
has 5 games. Nick has 6 games.
But how do we determine,
So whoever loses...
Yeah.
Those 2 people have to eat the wings. The person who gets it correctly does not have to eat the wings.
Is Nick going to come here to New York City?
No, Nick will probably do it over Zoom, or he'll film it while he eats the wings, something along those lines.
You know what you guys should do? This would be my advice. Instead of the Buffalo Wild Wings challenge, why don't you guys do the show Hot Ones, where you have to progressively go through the wings, and it gets hotter and hotter and hotter. That's been very popular. A bunch of my friends just did this in their fantasy football league. The loser had to do the Hot Ones challenge, and you could kind of do it as an exclusive on the YouTube. Oh, I just sounded really old there. The YouTube. You could even do it on the show, or maybe just do like an Instagram Live or something paying off the bet. But on the show would be fun, the Hot Ones challenge.
Certainly would be a lot of fun, but I feel like it would be too derivative of the actual Hot Ones. We have to ask for permission.
I don't think so. They sell those. They sell the boxes of sauces.
No, I know that, but to actually do the same system that Hot Ones does, I feel like would be...
I'm just going to go on a limb here. I know legal gets involved with everything around here. I don't think they're going to sue you for doing the Hot Ones challenge. So that's just me.
I'm not worried about being sued. I'm just worried about being unoriginal.
Okay. People stealing ideas in radio, that's never happened before.
This is very true. I definitely steal ideas all the time.
We're like a bunch of hamsters on the wheel. And the wheel just keeps on going around, and we keep on taking those ideas.
My nickname used to be Hamster, so that's a perfect analogy.
Big Hamster, CBS, right here on Maggie and Perloff. The other thing that I have to ask you here is something else that I just recently did see. Oh, this is actually a conversation that I had. People are wondering if I'm going to do the advice duck today. Now, from my understanding, the way that segment goes in every Friday, I would have to wear that advice duck suit, and then I have to take a few rounds of questions, and people would ask me for advice.
I mean, it's your call. I don't know if you're going to fit into that, because I
don't think I would either. Maggie's very encouraging. And Maggie is a very positive person. She's like, oh, they're like pajamas. You'll fit into it. I go, I know Perloff, who's a string bean, fit into it with last time I was filling in. Maggie, obviously, it's her suit. But for me, there's no way I'm fitting into that thing.
I mean, I feel like it would be kind of enjoyable. It'd be more funny to see you trying to put it on. Similar to maybe a little Tommy boy, fat guy in a little coat. Big
fat
Zach
guy
in a
little
duck suit.
coat.
Yeah. Like me, if I tried to fit in it, the Weedos and everyone in the chat have been calling for me to get into the duck suit for months. The problem is it's going to be way too big on me. I'm going to be swimming in that thing.
Well, when Perloff did so, he had a little problem with the beak. And
Interesting.
It looked like that part of the duck had like erectile dysfunction because it kept on just flopping around all over the place while he was trying to speak.
Yeah, that's probably not the way to go.
Yeah, no. Okay. Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio. Let's play you. This is Mike Salk, who's a longtime Seattle talk show host, and Greg Bishop, who's covered the NFL for a while. And they were talking today on Seattle Sports, and they said Russell Wilson nixed the Eagles trade.
I got to hear more about Russell Wilson was very nearly an Eagle, et cetera. So I had heard that too. My understanding is that deal was basically done and Russ killed it.
Yeah, I think what I'd say is the Eagles really wanted him. Yeah, my understanding is, at that point in time, Russ wanted to stay here. But the Eagles were going gangbusters after quarterbacks for a couple years.
So this is not the first time we've heard of this, and it's just resurfacing today. We all knew that the Eagles were really, really, really interested in Russell Wilson. And Howie Roseman, it's kind of funny. Sometimes the deals you don't make end up being your best deals. And that's what transpired here. The Eagles not making that Russell Wilson trade, or Russell Wilson telling the Eagles, I'm good, thanks, but no thanks. Look how much better off the Eagles are now. Now they have a young franchise quarterback who, just as the kids would say, got the bag. Remember, they didn't have A.J. Brown at the time when they were talking to Seattle potentially for Russell Wilson. They would not have got A.J. Brown if they ended up getting Russell Wilson because they had to use those first-round picks. Remember, they traded a first-round pick for A.J. Brown, and the Tennessee Titans ended up taking Treylon Burks. So that deal where the Eagles, they clearly wanted to make it, right? They were exploring Deshaun Watson. Howie Roseman hired a private investigator, I think was one of those reports. And then they were clearly interested in Russell Wilson. At the time, if the Eagles would have done that, I think everyone would have said, yeah, good job by the Eagles. You get Russell Wilson. Yeah, good job by the Eagles, even though that was a more controversial situation with what was going on off the field. You get Deshaun Watson, but you would see why they would make that move. So the Eagles themselves even questioned Jalen Hurts. But here's what I like. Once they knew that neither of those deals were going to get done, whether they didn't want to do the Wentz deal or Russell Wilson didn't want to do the deal to Philadelphia, they went all in on Jalen Hurts. Because how many times do you see a young quarterback fail and he fails and he leaves you desiring more? Where you go, man, if they would have gotten this wide receiver, or if they would have gotten this offensive line. The Eagles are the best offensive line in football, the preeminent offensive line in the NFL. And once they didn't get Russell Wilson, once they didn't get Deshaun Watson and replace that quarterback in Jalen Hurts, they said, Jalen Hurts, we're going to have you prove this year that you're the guy. They were skeptical. They can't say that they were all in on Jalen Hurts when they were interested in Deshaun Watson. Reportedly, they basically had a deal done for Russell Wilson, but Russ said, I'm not going there. And what they did off of that was they already had Devontae Smith a year there, who I loved at Alabama. Then they go on out there, they get A.J. Brown. They had the best offensive line in football. Dallas Goedert is one of the more underrated tight ends in the NFL. And you look at that team, that was a team that ended up going to a Super Bowl last year, and they didn't really lose many games a year ago. And now when you enter this season, we're looking at Philadelphia coming off a Super Bowl berth where for a decent amount of the Super Bowl, they played better than Kansas City, where now you look at Philly saying, in the NFC, it's Philadelphia and pretty much everybody else. Now, I'll throw the 49ers in there towards the top. The 49ers are the second best team in football, in the NFC, I should say. But until the 49ers give us some clarity on their quarterback position, I don't care how great their roster does appear. You can't tell me that the 49ers right now are the favorites over the Eagles because we don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for the 49ers. It could be Brock Purdy. Then it could be Sam Darnold. Then it could be Trey Lance. It may be all the above. So that deal that Howie Roseman got told no on by Russell Wilson, look how many different stories come from that. Like if Russell Wilson went to Philadelphia, I think it's a better landing spot than if he would have gone to Denver, even without having A.J. Brown there. I trust the Eagles organization more than I do the Denver Broncos. But off of that, you have Jalen Hurts not only becoming a good quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in football, and a star in this league. You have A.J. Brown going to Philadelphia, Philadelphia going to a Super Bowl. And I just have to ask this question, and I'll throw it out there to you guys, EJ and Samter. Do you think Russell Wilson has regret about his decision to go to Denver? Because I'll also add this. The Commanders were also reportedly interested. That's been out there before. And Russell Wilson said he wouldn't go to the Commanders. Now, I can understand why. Now it looks different because Josh Harris is going to be the owner of the Washington Commanders, but you have that just terrible human being in Daniel Snyder running that organization right into the ground. It's an absolute disgrace what the Commanders have become. But you look at the Commanders' situation just in terms of the roster, you could argue that the Commanders have a better roster than Denver. Like, Denver's defense is awesome. The Commanders on paper have a really good defense as well. Chase Young needs to reach his potential, but look at the offensive side of the ball. Jerry Jeudy, to me, is overrated. I like Patrick and Sutton, but they got to be healthy. Javonte Williams, I think, could have a promising career, but he already has dealt with injuries. You look at the Commanders, and we don't know who they would have been able to draft. Maybe they don't have Jahan Dotson, which is fair. But right now, the Commanders have Terry McLaurin, who is a stud at the wide receiving position, better than Jerry Jeudy. You have now Jahan Dotson out of Penn State, who's phenomenal. And, oh, yeah, by the way, I like Brian Robinson Jr. I look at the Commanders as a team. If it wasn't for Dan Snyder, and maybe this is going to change in the next few years, whenever that goes through, I do think the Commanders can become a destination because they've been looking for a quarterback for a while. I know Ron Rivera keeps on going back and forth. You got to get the quarterback, and then it's, we're finally building the roster. He has built this roster. This roster is a solid roster, and they just need a quarterback. So I'll ask you guys this. After how much of a disaster it was for Russell Wilson in year one, now Sean Payton's there. I wonder how much regret Russell Wilson has just on the surface, if we want to just make it this simple, that there was a deal on the table for him to go to Philadelphia, and he said thanks, but no thanks.
I think it's too early for him to have regret yet. I think if you look at you talk about, you look at the vision, it never made sense to begin with, but there was a reason why he wanted to go to Denver over everybody else. He knew what that division was before he got there. So I don't see that as being part of the regret. The regret might just be because no one knew how good the Eagles were really going to be. But I still think that the Broncos roster looks good. And if Russell Wilson can become what he was in the past, there's no reason to say that they can't be one of the better teams in the AFC. We talk about like the top tier of the AFC and then that second tier. The Broncos could be in that second tier if Wilson gets back to being Russell Wilson. So I'm not sure he's ready to say regret yet. The regret might just be that he made a bad decision to begin with that division. But I still think that Russell Wilson could be Russell Wilson.
The conference.
Yes.
Like, look at the AFC compared to the NFC. You have Mahomes. You have Burrow. You have Josh Allen. Right now, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Justin Herbert. You could go on and on and on with these quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson as well. It's loaded. In the NFC, the best quarterback is Jalen Hurts. And then it's like, can Matthew Stafford stay healthy? Dak is a good quarterback, not a great quarterback. Kirk Cousins, a good quarterback, not a great quarterback. What is eventually Bryce Young going to be? Because he is a number one overall pick. Kyler Murray is probably going to get traded sooner rather than later, like a year from now, because they're probably going to have the number one overall pick. They also have that Texans pick in the draft, and maybe they go take Caleb Williams. Like, you look around the NFC, like, we're talking about Jared Goff being one of the better quarterbacks in the NFC, and that's not like crazy to say, but it sounds crazy to say. So that's, to me, where if you could have gone to the NFC for Russell Wilson, that would have been much better than going into just this craziness of the AFC.
And to me, I think it started, the first issue was, I think that not just Russell Wilson, I think a lot of us overrated a lot of the guys on the Broncos. There was this thought that the Broncos were this high-powered offense that had weapons all over the place, and all they needed was a quarterback to deliver these guys the ball, and they would be averaging 30 points a game.
Seattle has a better offense than Denver. I said that at the time of the trade. They have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett.
Right. He wasn't even going to a better supporting cast than what he was leaving. So I think that was the original sin. And then the second one was not comparing what you had in Denver compared to who you're going to be battling in that AFC. So, yeah, I think he had a massive he should have massive regret. And you look at what the Eagles put together, the offensive line they had, they already had a lot of those pass rushers. Like, the Eagles were gumming. Like, I don't know. I thought they were going to go to the Super Bowl this year. I did pick them to go to the Super Bowl this year. Like, I don't think it was seeing the forest through the trees to think that the Eagles couldn't turn it around very quickly.
Zach Gelb in for Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. A big suspension is coming for Ja Morant. You'll hear from the commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, when we return in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
I think we're going to have a light breakfast.
Yeah.
We're going to have to really kill it at lunch. And then dinner is just going to be
free for all.
But you have to wait till after the draft for dinner because you can't really enjoy barbecue while the draft is going on.
No.
So it's sort of a catch-22.
I can't be like all sauce all over my face and my hands trying to use an elbow to like scroll up to see the latest pick or
Well,
trade.
last year, though, it would have worked at the number 4 pick, though. Sauce Gardner.
You've been waiting for that one, haven't you?
No, that dad joke just came out of nowhere. It was
Sure.
you handed it to me.
No. This is like when Ian Eagle sat on Jawbreaker for the whole year and then finally unleashed it.
Wait.
That's what he told us. And you've been sitting on this one for like at least 2
You were
weeks.
just talking about how you can't get sauce on your hands so you scroll down during the draft. I mean, come on, that was put in my lap. I had no choice but to spike it home.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Zach Gelb in for Maggie and Perloff on this Friday. Maggie and Perloff were on earlier, filling in for the legendary Jim Rome. You can always give us a call, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. If you want to give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram, at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, you could find how I may be taking on a new career, actually, Samter. I may be a studio and a home decorator because I rearranged the studio today where I said goodbye to that filthy, disgusting Carson Wentz poster just for the day because we got to get the subscribers and all that, and then we could eventually burn that baby. I'm not going to say on the air in terms of the Carson Wentz poster because I think management would have a problem if we're setting fire to the Carson Wentz poster in studio, so we'll figure out some way to destroy it. But I did not want to do the show today. I did not feel comfortable doing the show today with Carson Wentz looking right over my shoulder because I just don't trust him at all. So I took the Carson Wentz poster earlier and I threw it, and I almost broke a light in here because I didn't realize how much oomph, let's just say, I put on the throw. I had some anger to get out of my system. And the Carson Wentz photo may or may not hit a very expensive light that is in the studio. It looks like, if you ask me, that the light's still working. So if management is listening, hello. The light's fine. Don't worry. You may want to check it later. And then I took the poster away from the corner and moved it right in front of the door as it's serving as a doormat right now. So anyone that wants to walk into the studio during the break, make sure you just stomp on that Carson Wentz poster, but don't give it too big of a stomp, EJ or Samter, and I'll try to skip over it because my big fat foot would break it right away. Perloff did say, let's just not break the poster. He didn't say we couldn't get a little bit dirty, get a few footprints on it. Maybe we'll draw a little mustache on it. That would be fun.
He's already got a beard. You're going to add more?
Yeah, but like a Sharpie mustache. That would be fun. And by the way, did you watch Ted Lasso? Are you up to date?
I have not watched the finale yet.
So how many episodes in are you?
I'm all the way in except for the finale.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, the finale was, 2 or 3 days ago. I just haven't had a chance yet to watch it.
All I will say, I'm not going to ruin it for you here. The finale is 74 minutes. I thought the finale was really, really, really good. I liked it. The last 2 episodes of the season I did really like, but I'm surprised. And I didn't think this was the greatest season ever. The season 3 wasn't the greatest thing I've ever watched, but how much hate there's been on it. And I don't know if that's just people liking to hate things that seem universally beloved Because Ted Lasso, when it first came out, it was like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, blah, 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 blah. And then it's taken a turn after season 2, going into season 3, where a lot of people didn't like this season. I thought this season was good. I liked the storylines. It wasn't the greatest thing I've ever watched, but I'm surprised how much animosity there's been towards this season 3 of Ted Lasso. So I was happy that they finished on a strong note, because the last 2 episodes I did really enjoy.
I certainly am not going to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't watched any of the season yet, but there have been a few storylines that were just very odd. They started out a few different storylines, and just like a few episodes in, that storyline just like disappeared.
Too much Keeley, I think. That would be my biggest critique.
I disagree. More Keeley for me. Give me an entire spin-off on Keeley. I want a Keeley spin-off. I just want all day, all time, everything Keeley. But
Zava?
Zava.
I like Zava.
Zava was fine, but he was in like 3 episodes, and he I don't want to explain what happened.
It was very Aaron Rodgers-like.
It was very, it just felt very abrupt and random, but I'm like obsessed with everything Ted Lasso, so like there's nothing that they could do that would make me not happy. I'm the opposite of those trolls. Yeah. I'm just happy with anything Ted Lasso, because there's so much negativity, and there's so much, like, whether it's Succession or all these different shows.
Did you watch Succession?
No, but there's like all this fighting and anger and like, just there's so much negativity around. It's just good to have a show where the entire purpose and the entire message of the show is just positivity and loving the people that you're supposed to hate, and just being respectful, and just turning evil people good and making good people better. Everything's just so positive. It just makes me happy.
Aaron Rodgers becomes a member of the Jets, and now Samter's like preaching positivity and Zen and ayahuasca.
We did
and just
ayahuasca
be with
together,
yourself.
man. Me and Aaron Rodgers is all over. Yeah.
Oh, you were at the Taylor Swift concert with him?
Yeah, you didn't see. I know I'm small,
22.
but you didn't see me right next to him. I was a little bit, behind the barrier, but maybe it was blocking me.
Yeah, I saw Miles Teller. I did not see Samter. Do you watch Ted Lasso, EJ?
I do not watch Ted Lasso, so this was a Charlie Brown conversation.
Gotcha.
Womp.
Right over your head.
Yeah.
I feel like you're a Succession fan. Am I wrong on that?
I've not watched Succession yet. I want to watch it, but I've not gotten into it. I am all superheroes right now. So right now my head is still in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which I watched last night.
Gotcha. I feel like we're
that I have to watch too. That came out today.
Yeah, I'm not big into that stuff.
This is the one.
What is it called?
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Well, you have to see the first one first. You have to see the first.
Right. This franchise is the one.
Gotcha. So this is animated, and it's not connected to necessarily. It's not officially connected to all those other Avengers.
Do you have to wear some funky glasses when you watch this stuff?
No, because this one's animated. This one you don't have to worry about. But it's so, the first one was so good, and everything I'm reading about this new one that came out last night is that it might be the best Marvel movie ever made.
So,
like, better than any of the Avengers movies, better than anything else.
What you're saying is some of the weirdos in the chat, they would enjoy this, the animated Spider-Man.
I would hope so, but I don't think you have to enjoy it for that reason. I'm just
throwing
movie.
it out there.
Yeah.
Friday night, got nothing to do. I have plans, but if you have nothing to do on a Friday night,
thanks for throwing me under the bus. I have plans, but you're a loser. You clearly don't have anything going on.
You have a lot. You can't make plans.
It's tough to make
You have a baby girl, and you have a wife. You are on daddy duty for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, this is true.
You have no social life anymore.
None. We try to make plans, and the amount of friends and things that I have had to disappoint and cancel at the last second, it's not fun.
I did find it funny, though. Succession is like the show right now, and it just came to a close. EJ hasn't seen Succession. Samter hasn't seen Succession, and I did on my show, the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio, said I would start to watch Succession because I think it was 4 seasons or something like that, about 10 episodes a season. So I'm going to start watching Succession, but I do feel the last 48, 72 hours that I've really been left out of the party because every time I go on social media, people are talking about Succession, and I've just been left out of it. Have you guys been big Dave fans, by the way, the Little Dicky Show? Neither of you watched Dave.
No, Dave and Atlanta are the 2 shows I need to watch next.
I watched a lot of Atlanta, but not Dave.
Dave is hilarious. I thought this past season was the best one yet. Here comes an unpopular opinion, though. I may get canceled for saying this. Everyone loved the last episode. I thought the last episode of the season was okay.
Okay.
I didn't think it was as good. I thought the season was really good. The last episode, everyone was like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. This is the Michael Jordan of TV shows. It's unbelievable. Did not love the last episode. That's just me. All righty, let's go to Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA. Spineless Silver may actually be showing a spine soon. Here is Adam Silver talking about the latest with Ja Morant.
We've uncovered a fair amount of additional information. I think since I was still asked about the situation, I would say we probably could have brought it to a head now, but we made the decision, and I believe the Players Association agrees with us, that it would be unfair to these players and these teams in the middle of this series to announce the results of that investigation. And my sense now is that shortly after the conclusion of the finals, we will announce the outcome of that investigation.
So a few things off that. We all know what originally transpired with Ja Morant. And Ja Morant pretty much got an 8-game suspension, if you want to call it that. But he, according to Adam Silver, showed remorse and also said that this wouldn't happen again. So if you're Adam Silver, who I think allows the players to run the league and has zero spine, even him, he has to take this to a different level, because Ja Morant basically, I'll give you this analogy, walked into the principal's office and said, yeah, I started the food fight. And then the principal said, are you going to have a food fight again? No. And then he kind of slapped him on the wrist and gave him like in-school suspension for a few days. But then if you're back in that principal's office 2 or 3 months later, and I know this topic is a little bit more serious than a food fight, and you are the same person starting the food fight, then you got to drop the hammer. And that's what Adam Silver's going to do. I don't know if it's a half season. I don't know if it's a full season. But EJ, clearly last night, Adam Silver made it as clear as possible. I don't want to take away from the NBA Finals. Well, if you already have your decision made, which he basically said, and this is going to take away, in your opinion, from the NBA Finals, if you just give him a 16-game suspension and double what he did last year, is that really taking away from the NBA Finals? We'll talk about it, but it's not as if we're doing multiple segments on it. But if you suspend him for a half season or an entire year, then there's several layers that come with that. Not only the initial suspension and the reaction to it, but how does the NBPA end up fighting it? The NBAPA, how do they end up fighting it? How does Ja Morant respond to it? Because it's not just going to be the suspension gets given down and then this goes away. If he gets a half a season or a full season, what the speculation kind of is, and all we know is it deemed to be a significant suspension. I saw Windy, as they call him, Brian Windhorst, talking about that earlier this morning when he was in between carrying the water for LeBron James for having one of the most impressive sweep performances that he's ever seen in a losing effort. But Windhorst said it's going to be a significant suspension. Silver basically said that last night without physically saying it.
Yeah, and you could even hear the inflection in his voice. I feel like when Silver is delivering bad news, he sounds different. Like, that sounded like Donald Sterling about to get banned voice from Adam Silver. When it's something that's, when the first time it happened, I think he was a lot more, we'll see what happens and we hope Ja gets help. I mean, there was no, let's see if he gets help. Let's see. This was, we've done our investigation. We've uncovered more things, what is that?
Well, that's a great question. What are the additional things that you uncovered? Because there was the original incident, and I believe it was Denver, actually. And there was a big question, did he bring the gun on the plane? Did he bring the gun in the locker room? And clearly they found out that he did not. Whether they found new information that he did, I don't know. But they took him for his word, and whatever they investigated, what really changed outside of us seeing this video, which his friend, once he saw Ja had the gun, threw the camera down because he knew Ja Morant was being an idiot. What other information is there possibly out there? And I'm fascinated. Like, I wonder if that was just filler by the commissioner and just like commissioner speak.
Right.
Or if there is actually other serious damaging information. And I think the biggest part here is, assuming it's significant, which everyone's saying it is, how does Ja handle that? Is the Ja mentality, bleep the NBA, they're against me, I'm going to fight it? Or this is actually a wake-up call for me, and I have to change my life? Because when you're playing around with guns, nothing good is going to happen when you're flashing your gun in a strip club, you're flashing your gun in a car. He's lucky that this is all that has happened with how careless he has been. And I can't sit here with 100% confidence saying that if Ja gets hit with a half year or a full year suspension, that all of a sudden he's going to say and actually embrace this being a wake-up call, because he did everything the last time that suggested he was going to embrace this being a wake-up call. And clearly it was just a PR tour with Jalen Rose, and everything he said ended up being empty. Ja will eventually be kind of judged by his further actions, because he was in the principal's office 2 to 3 months after this first infraction that we saw publicly. So he's lost all the benefit of the doubt.
And I think it will be interesting to see how much kicking and screaming you actually get from the players' union. I think that will actually perhaps maybe determine what Ja's disposition is, or whether or not he really does see this as something where he has to change and get mature. If the players' union is saying, hey, like, this suspension is heavy-handed and he didn't do anything illegal, and how could you do this? Well, in turn, that's essentially Ja Morant's representation saying that he didn't do anything wrong. So that's Ja himself saying that. So that, I think, will be interesting. If the players' union kind of says, yeah, we understand, maybe it was a little heavy, but whatever, I think maybe that's kind of them waving the white flag and saying, Ja, we can't help you here, buddy. You got to get help.
Now, without knowing what the suspension is, and we're just operating that it's going to be significant because that's what the reporting has been. And I think anyone with a brain can put that together. Now, how many games, I don't know, but I would be shocked if it's anything less than a half of a season. I would be really shocked by that at this point. I got to think the players' union is going to fight this, because how many times in the past have we seen the players' union in any sport fight something that people understand the suspension, but they still fight it because that's what unions are kind of for, to protect the people that are in the union. So from a moral standpoint, you're probably right. Assuming this is a half season, full season suspension, the union probably shouldn't fight it for what's in the best interest of Ja Morant, because he needs to not focus on basketball and focus getting his life in order and not throwing away his career. But if I had to take a guess, I would imagine that the union is going to fight for Ja Morant.
I would think so as well. And if that's the case, not that, he had, all these players have rights. There's a collective bargaining agreement. Like, you should negotiate whatever you can get. So I understand that, but I would be concerned about how serious he's taking what he is doing if he is fighting tooth and nail and say, hey, instead of a half season, give me 30 games or give me 20 games. Like, Gilbert Arenas told the story about how he went into David Stern's office and he said, I only think I should get maybe 2 or 3 games for the gun incident. And Stern looked at him like he was crazy and said, I will void your contract if you don't take this full season suspension.
Well, there's a difference between Stern and Silver. Stern had a backbone. Adam Silver, this is a big moment for him.
Yeah.
Because he really hasn't had many big moments outside of the Donald Sterling situation, which was the most obvious thing ever. Like, you didn't need to be a commissioner to realize that Donald Sterling shouldn't have owned a team anymore with what he did and what he said. But since then, the NBA hasn't really had great leadership. And the commissioner is an overrated commissioner, in my opinion. This is a big moment for Adam Silver, and it seems like he's going to handle this the right way. But let's actually then see what the suspension is real quickly, because I know we got to get to a break. If I was the commissioner, and I know Ja is technically suspended right now, what he suspended from, though, and for in the offseason, it's like, how much are you actually going to the facility and trying to be a part of things when there is nothing really going on right now? Maybe that's more from a training perspective and things like that. If I was Adam Silver, I would just give him an indefinite suspension. And why I say that is I give him an indefinite suspension, and you need to do X, Y, and Z and prove to us that you're in a better spot before we even think about putting you back on a basketball court. Because if you just give him, let's say, 50 games or something, and Ja's like, I'll just serve the 50 games, bleep the NBA, they're out to get me. I didn't do anything wrong. What did I do that was illegal? Like, if he plays that card, you didn't really learn your lesson. It's kind of similar to the whole Kyrie situation. Totally different things, obviously. But the Nets said here's a checklist. When you complete everything on the checklist, we'll allow you back on the basketball court. I kind of feel as if maybe you get some medical professionals involved as well. You have a checklist, and it's not only Memphis when they think he's ready to return, but the league then has the final call when they think he's ready to return. I would kind of make this very vague in terms of how many games and just make it indefinite. And you need to show us some serious change, because you already lost the benefit of the doubt when you just did this a few months ago, and now we're right back in this hot mess. One more cut here from the commissioner. Here is Adam Silver when he was asked if the initial Ja suspension, looking back at it, was long enough.
I guess in hindsight, I don't know. If it had been a 12-game suspension instead of an 8-game suspension, would that have mattered? I don't know. I know that it seemed, at least, based on precedent, it seemed appropriate at the time. We've all seen the video that it appears he's done it again, but I don't think we yet know what it will take to change his behavior.
And basically what the commissioner said there, I'll translate for you. It was a slap on the wrist. I'm not going to say it was a slap on the wrist, but he didn't learn from it. So now here comes the big suspension. That's how I interpreted that answer from Adam Silver. We'll take a break here on Maggie and Perloff. Zach Gelb in for Maggie and Perloff, who were on Jim Rome earlier, as we just have a bunch of moving pieces dancing around CBS Sports Radio today. When we come on back, the Suns have made their hire to replace Monty Williams. He, of course, is Frank Vogel. But what does that mean for Doc Rivers? We'll get into that when we return in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Gelb in for Maggie and Perloff, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Let's go to Jay in Alabama next up on Maggie and Perloff. Jay, what's happening? How the cannolis been?
Oh, man, Jesus, Zach, you caught me in the checkout line, like, right now. I mean, literally right now, but...
What's the over-under? What's the over-under on the total bill? I'm saying $68, and you're going to go over today. I'm feeling a big Friday order for Jay in Alabama.
No, if you say $68, it's going to be over on that one because I only got like 4 items. It's like 3 sacks of potatoes and some Ziploc bags. That's it.
Gotcha. So what are we looking at, like $27 or something like that?
Nah, I think it's going to be like 50-something, bro.
Oh, so
no. This is Costco because everything is in bulk. So I'll give you know what you might be right there at 68. Yeah, there you go, fella. Sorry about that, but I hear you talk about Ja or whatever. Kind of tired of that dude. I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with him. Doesn't have a mental issue. I mean, like, if being stupid was a mental issue, they'd have medication for it. There's no medication for being stupid. That's all it is. Quit talking like everybody needs to quit having these conversations. Like, we need to help him and corral around him and help that brother. The dude's just being stupid. He's being a fake thugged out brat. And that's all the negative stuff I'm going to stick on. But, hey, I hear you over there talking. But anyways, as far as Ted Lasso, man, I hate to see it go. Hey, they told me not to spoil it, so I'm not going to send any spoilers out there. But it is, I even tweeted it to you one time. It's like mental therapy or TV therapy for me. Like, you watch one episode of Ted Lasso and everything is right as rain. And last thing, as far as the advice duck, don't do the advice duck. Just call it, you're here with Dr. Gelb.
Oh, Dr. Gelb.
You're here with Dr. Gelb. That's all you got to call it, bro.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to see maybe on that advice duck. I may go into that closet where the advice duck is, try on the suit, see how ridiculous I look. If I can even get it around my calves, we'll see if I'm going to be A-okay to pull it up through the rest of the body. And maybe, I'm not going to make any promises, but maybe or maybe not, we'll get a little advice duck later on a Friday. I'm just trying to fill in and keep the ship from sinking here on Maggie and Perloff. I'm just trying to have smooth sailing right into a little bit of a weekend coming off of Memorial Day. Let's go to Ryan in Santa Barbara next up on CBS Sports Radio. Ryan, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on, Zach and Hickey? Happy Friday.
We're doing great. Hickey's not here, though.
Oh, it's not Hickey. Oh, okay.
He's just crafting up some bad takes, and he's doing these stupid shower videos.
He's taking another vacation day? What, is he going to another Mets game? Or why is he taking today off? What's going on?
Well, just because I'm here, I'm on someone else's turf, so Hickey is actually surprisingly working tonight, and he's going to be producing my show with me out.
Oh, got it. Okay, all right. I'm liking the change-up you guys are doing today. It's kind of cool, mixing it up. I love what you did with the Carson Wentz poster. I was going to chime – God, there's so many things now that I've been listening, but I was going to chime in on that Russell Wilson. Yeah, Philly really dodged a bullet there. And, and picking up A.J. Brown was huge. In regards to the Ja Morant thing, like the last caller said, he's just stupid. But I don't see a whole year suspension coming from Silver. I'm kind of with you. Look, like 16 games, he's not paid, and maybe.
Well, Ryan, I'll tell you this, and thanks for the phone call. It's not going to be 16 games. This commissioner would come off so spineless if he only doubles what the last suspension was. And the last suspension was only 8. There's no way it's only going to be 16 games. And I don't know what is actually going on with Ja Morant. I'm not inside his brain. I don't hang out with Ja Morant. I don't know Ja Morant, right? I interviewed him once when he was back at Murray State, right? I talked to guys that coached him and Matt McMahon when they were coaching him at Murray State. And a lot of this ended up being surprising what we thought Ja Morant was. So I can't tell you what's going on with Ja Morant. But yeah, he is doing a lot of careless and stupid things. I think this is going to be a pretty significant suspension. Like, if this is not at least half a season, I would be really shocked at this point. And I do think we'll end up going there. And the commissioner pretty much gave off the impression last night that this was going to be a big suspension. So I did see after that crazy contract that Monty Williams did get, which good for Monty Williams that he gets the money, but that kind of says to me Detroit had to so overpay for Monty Williams because Monty Williams didn't want to go to Detroit. Do I think Monty Williams is going to make Detroit this instant winner? No, they have a lot of work to do. But the replacement for Monty Williams in Phoenix, I actually think, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but when you were looking at an assistant, you were looking at Doc Rivers, and then Frank Vogel was the other potential finalist. I thought out of the 3 that were there, Frank Vogel was the best option. And here's why I thought Doc would have been horrible. Forget the fact that he's an overrated coach and he hasn't done much since winning that championship in Boston. Doc Rivers, when he leaves, you hear a lot through reports or from the superstars themselves that Doc really didn't get along with those players because you're in a league where players don't like to be held accountable. And Paul George and Kawhi Leonard had their things to say about Doc Rivers on the way out, which I thought was weak. James Harden didn't even wait until a day after that Game 7 loss. He made it clear where his relationship was at with Doc Rivers. Joel Embiid got along with Doc Rivers, and reportedly Joel Embiid was upset when Doc Rivers got fired. But it's tough to sell that Joel Embiid, when he says he's upset, when the Sixers do everything to kind of make sure and ensure that Joel Embiid's going to stay, there's no way he was actually blindsided by the Doc Rivers firing. And they ended up getting a better coach in the year of 2023 in Nick Nurse. So that failure to relate with superstars recently, I think it would have been a massive mistake by Phoenix if they did in fact hire Doc Rivers. Because you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, 2 big stars in the sport. So Frank Vogel did a good job with LeBron. They won a championship together. Now, they did fire him, but we see a constant turnover in coaches, right? Mike Budenholzer won a championship out of a job. Nick Nurse has won a championship out of a job. And now Frank Vogel was that other coach. And you know Frank Vogel's a good defensive-minded coach as well, but they got to build a better roster in Phoenix. Like, you look at the Suns roster, it's Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and then it's like, humana. Is Chris Paul going to be back? It seems so. I don't think Chris Paul has much gas left in the tank. It appears that DeAndre Ayton is going to be out the door, but he didn't get along with Monty Williams. Can Frank Vogel salvage DeAndre Ayton's career in Phoenix, or is he definitely going to be traded? So those are things to look at. But the bigger point here is, as now there's a hiring cycle complete and Doc Rivers hasn't gotten hired, I do eventually think there will be a team that will be desperate to bring in Doc Rivers. But I don't view Doc Rivers as this really good or great coach anymore. And I kind of look at Doc Rivers as someone that had success in this league, and now probably the best step in his next chapter is to do what he's done before, and that's to go on TV and call game Samter. Like, that's the way that I look at Doc Rivers now. And maybe another team that isn't the most desirable situation will go give Doc Rivers a job, and maybe he'll coach again because you know he wants to coach again. He was a finalist for this Suns job, but I don't believe that he just bowed out of the Suns job and he took his name out of the running. He wasn't getting the job. I'll decipher through that BS for you. He wasn't getting the job. So it's optics. Oh, I took my name out of it. BS. He's going to television. Should probably do television for the rest of his career associated with the NBA. But you know these coaches and you know teams. They love to just recycle through coaches And coaches, they're addicted to doing what they've done for so many years. So it's going to be tough for Doc Rivers if given an opportunity to pass up on it.
What's crazy is that he keeps getting better jobs after he keeps getting fired.
Yeah,
which is crazy to me. Like, he left Boston, and when that thing was falling apart, and then somehow he landed it with the Clippers, and he ran the Clippers into the ground as a president first, then kept his job as a head coach.
Yeah, Lawrence Frank had to come save the day.
Right, exactly. And then now he gets to go to, then he got to go to Philly, which was on the upswing again. So it's almost like, you know, he expected to just land Kevin Durant and Devin Booker right in his lap, and all of a sudden when he saw things weren't going to go his way, he's like, I'm a buyout. By the way, Zach, I'm bowing out of the Knicks GM search. I know Scott Perry just left. It's not that they don't want me. I'm just letting you know I'm bowing out of the search. I do not want to be the Knicks GM, as great a job as that would be.
Yeah, by the way, I told you I had plans tonight on this Friday evening. I bowed out of my potential date with Beyonce to go to the Mets game tonight. So, Beyonce, I don't want you to be sitting there at the table waiting for me to go to dinner tonight at like Del Frisco's or something. I have bowed out of my date with Beyonce. That's like Doc Rivers bowing out of this job with the Phoenix Suns.
It's unbelievable. But I agree. I think that he'll be back on TV. He was actually really good on TV. It was a while ago, but he was really good when he was there. And look, somebody's going to give him a shot. It's kind of like Stan Van Gundy when it looked like he was kind of done, and all of a sudden here came New Orleans Pelicans out of nowhere. Like, someone will give him another shot, but he's going to have to do a TV cycle before he gets another job.
Stan Van Gundy, I don't need to see him coach it again, by the way. Just keep his ass on TV.
I hope he doesn't. But like you said, the NBA likes to recycle coaches.
Yeah,
and
the NBA and the NHL.
And
these coaches and these teams are whores. They really are.
And they really get like a new shine when they go on TV, because people hear them and people think, oh, this guy's pretty smart and they know the game. It's like, well, I mean, duh, they coached professional basketball, professional football, professional hockey. Of course they know more than the average player or the average guy are used to seeing in that play-by-play or analyst situation. So these guys seem to get that kind of shine. So it wouldn't surprise me if Doc goes to TV and then some team who forgets how it ended in Philly, forgets how it ended in L.A. and says, you know what, maybe it'll work out here.
And just because you're good on TV doesn't mean that you should be a coach or running a team again. Now, Doc did win a championship. He's not this horrible coach. He did some good things in the NBA, but Mike Mayock was one of the great TV analysts ever. Then you gave him a team to go run the Raiders, and I don't think he never made a good first-round pick, it seemed like. All those guys, there's something horrible's either happened, or they're no longer in the league, or they're on a different team. It's crazy when you go through the first-round picks of Mike Mayock. Actually, talk about the Raiders. That's who Doc Rivers is, minus the bad emails. He's John Gruden. Won a championship, and ever since winning a championship, it's just gone downhill. And Gruden went to TV for 10 years, then came back, and he was not good as a head coach. The game has passed by John Gruden. The game has passed by Doc Rivers. And just because you won a championship way back when does not mean you should keep on getting a job and people expecting you to bring a championship to your city. Zach Gelb in for Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio. James Harden potentially going back to Houston, maybe DeAndre Hopkins as well. Why? We get back into that next. First up with the latest CBS Sports Radio update. Here he is, CeeLo Crystal Presti.
Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, as you were just discussing, latest NBA head coaching vacancy to be filled. A big one, it's with the Phoenix Suns. According to multiple reports, they're finalizing a 5-year deal to hire Frank Vogel as their next leading man. He emerged out of the finalist group that included former Sixers head coach Doc Rivers and Suns assistant Kevin Young. Vogel comes with a 2020 Lakers championship on his resume, as well as a history of constructing elite defenses. Meantime, an extra day off and some review for the Heat in that high altitude of Denver before playing Game 2 of the finals Sunday night. Jimmy Butler quiet in the opener against the Nuggets.
I definitely think they came out with a lot of physicality, and we have to be able to match that. They did their job on their home floor. You have to say that, but we will be ready. Like he said, we will adjust, do some things very differently.
He urged himself and his teammates to turn up the aggressiveness after they set a postseason record for the fewest free throws in a game last night, only 2 of them, and none from their starting 5. Longest active winning streak across Major League Baseball belongs to the first-place Arizona Diamondbacks, 5 in a row, including their first 4-game sweep of the Rockies in over 20 years. Arizona dead even with the Dodgers atop the NL West heading into tonight's action, as they will host the Braves. I'm Chris Lopresti.
Hey, it's DA. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Alrighty, welcome back in. Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio. Zach Gelb in for Maggie and Andrew on this Friday. So for a while, all throughout this season, we've seen the reports. Don't be surprised if James Harden winds back up with the Houston Rockets. And I just asked a simple question. Why would Tillman Fertitta do that? He wanted out of your organization. You now have a younger team. I can't say that James Harden is the best mentor and the best role model because not that there's anything wrong with going to strip clubs and enjoying your life, but it seems like this guy is more focused on the party scene than it is playing actual basketball. And he's also not a winner. So since that ship has already sailed, and EJ, maybe you could explain it better than I can, why the heck would the Rockets, outside of Tillman Fertitta, just loving everything about James Harden and just being a dope, like Daryl Morey was a dope bringing James Harden to Philadelphia, why would he bring him back to H-Town?
I think they are about to completely reset what they were anticipating what they were going to do, which is going to be a full rebuild. They were going to take high draft picks. Yeah. They accumulated
now expedite it.
Yeah, they were going to accumulate a lot of draft picks, which they did in one of these drafts. They had like 3 or 4 first-round picks all coming in 1 year. I think they realized that was going to be a long road. Like that Rockets team that was on the court this year is 4 years maybe from being like a team that can compete for a playoff spot. So I think Tillman Fertitta, looking at what he was staring down the barrel of, which is a lot of seasons, not a lot of great ticket sales, empty arenas, not a lot of interest in the organization, and saying, you know what? We can't do that. So as stupid as it may be, we're going to bring back James Harden. We're going to use some of these young guys we got, because you can get a good player with some of these guys. We're going to package some of these young guys, and we're going to get another star, and we're going to come into next year saying, Houston, we are no longer tanking. We no longer have a problem. Now we are the solution, and we are trying to win next year. Come out to the arena, watch your Rockets play basketball.
So basically what you're telling me is they're going to be doing the Walmart version of the Rockets from a few years ago. Because Harden's older now, and there's no Chris Paul there anymore. There's no Russell Westbrook there anymore, whoever they brought in throughout the years, like Dwight Howard when he was there, and so on and so on. So they're going to try to expedite the rebuild, but then probably, if this even goes as good as they want it to, be a play-in tournament team?
That is what they're looking at. And I think that the Ime Udoka hiring telegraphed this so clearly for me, because Ime Udoka, that Boston Celtics team, I don't know if you remember that first half of the season, his first year, he was ripping those guys.
Yeah.
He was talking about their effort, talking about how focused they were, them being at times overwhelmed on the road. They had a bad loss against the Knicks. He said that I think the Garden crowd got to them. Like, he was getting after them in a way that I'm not used to seeing NBA coaches get after people. You can't imagine having that guy coaching a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds. Like, that is not going to be the recipe for getting those guys developed the way you want. You don't want to be crushing them in the media every week. So, to me, when they got an email, you would say, okay, you're trying to win now. You're trying to get a veteran team in there. You're going to bring in a star like Harden and pair him with somebody else and try to make a run.
Now, we all know James Harden loves himself a good strip club. And I did read an article once. He spent $1 million in a night, allegedly, at a Houston strip club, and they put his jersey
in the rafters.
In the rafters of the strip club. So there's going to be one crazy homecoming party with some of the allegations and the scuttlebutt surrounding Ime Udoka. Do you think Ime Udoka and James Harden will have a night out in the town?
Even Udoka knows what's good for him. He'll stay clear of James Harden that's not within only a basketball court.
Do you think this is a good decision by the Rockets? Because I don't think if you want to expedite the rebuild, okay. But bringing in an older James Harden, who it doesn't seem like basketball is his number one priority. That's why he got into it so much with Doc Rivers, and he is focused more on having a good time away from the court and living his life. And if that's what he wants to do, God bless him. There's still a team that's going to pay you a ton of money to basically barely work and maybe show up in a game or two in a playoff series, and then after that go MIA, put your face and slap it right on a milk carton. Like, this doesn't seem like a wise decision by the Houston Rockets.
I wouldn't do it. I mean, I think that, look, Jalen Green, first few years, good, but hasn't lit the world on fire. Jabari Smith's a guy I really liked coming out of college. up and down rookie year. I think Alperen Sengun actually might be the most promising player on that team. He was a later first-round pick. I think the reason why I can't kill them is because you look at the pieces they've amassed. I don't know if they drafted that well. Like, I don't know if the Jabari Smith pick was a good pick. I don't know if the Green pick was a good pick. Like, to me, like, I don't know if I look at them and see, okay, that is like a young Sacramento Kings, or that is a young Memphis Grizzlies, a team that was clearly on the come up. I see a team that's going to probably have to add a number one through the draft at some point in these other years in order to get to that point. So who knows what's going to happen? So I could see you saying, hey, we'll get to that rebuild anyway at some point. We can sign James Harden without trading any of our picks. We're not, getting rid of draft capital. Let's just see if we could do something with him.
From a money standpoint, it makes 0 sense, by the way, for Jaylen Brown. I'm going to give you a totally different point here, but then I'll tie it into Houston. From a money standpoint, it makes 0 sense for Jaylen Brown to leave the Boston Celtics, because Keith Smith put it out there the other day. If Brown stays in Boston, he could get a 5-year deal, about $290 or so million. If he goes anywhere else, it's 4 years, about $185. That's a big difference. I know when you're talking about $185 million, I know it really doesn't matter, but when you could earn nearly $300 million, that's a big difference. And I do think Jaylen Brown is staying with the Boston Celtics. But Jaylen Brown was also very close with Ime Udoka. Mm-hmm. Do you think there is going to be interest from the Rockets, who now has Ime Udoka as their coach, where they'll at least place that phone call, which would be an awkward phone call? Celtics, let's get a deal done. Jaylen Brown, maybe he tries to push this. I don't want to be the number 2 anymore in Boston, even though he was horrible in that Game 7 and probably blew that argument with his just terrible play in that game. Do you think Jaylen Brown tries to force his way to Houston?
It wouldn't shock me. I think the problem for the Celtics is, as good as those young players appear to be, at least promising as those young players seem to be, none of those guys, I think, are helping me beat Miami or helping me beat any of these teams in the playoff series. So I'd have to then take those young guys and then send them to another team. So I got to find a third team to get involved. So that'd be the detriment to that deal. Those guys are so young that just taking Jaylen Brown on the team and putting in a 21-year-old Jalen Green, saying, all right, he's going to show up in a Game 7 with all the pressure.
You don't expect
it's not going to happen. So that's going to be tough for Jaylen Brown to get there.
I really think there's only 2 destinations that you could send Jaylen Brown to if you're Boston. I don't agree with the Warriors one, but some people think if you get Poole and Kuminga and Wiggins, that's 3 players. It improves the depth on that team. And the Celtics, we all know, have a good roster. The other one, if they're going to trade Jaylen Brown, I think it's to Portland. Now, I don't think they're going to trade him to anywhere. I think he's going to stay with Boston, take the money, and try to still win with Jason Tatum. They're both still well under 30. But you could do 2 deals that have been thrown out there. I think it was with Kevin O'Connor threw them out there, where you go get Dame. And I know Dame's older, but I would rather have Dame than Jaylen Brown if I'm trying to go win a championship for the next few years. Even though Jaylen Brown is much younger, you probably have a bigger window, but the goal is to win. And then also thrown out there, EJ, has been Anthony Simons, and additionally, that 3rd overall pick that Portland does have. I feel like if there's going to be a deal done, it will involve Jaylen Brown in some capacity going to Portland.
I have a third team that I would wager for.
I'm all ears. Let's go.
What about the Brooklyn Nets?
And Mikal Bridges?
Mikal Bridges. Maybe for the Nets, you won't have to give up so much draft capital to get Brown, because Bridges is not that far off from Brown. But I think Nets fans would feel like that's an upgrade. You're getting a star, a guy who's already been an all-star. For the Celtics, you're getting a guy who maybe has been a little more proven in the postseason, at least being more of a consistent player for the Suns when he was
Interesting.
there.
I haven't thought about that.
He played great in the first round this year, and then maybe you're able to add some depth. Maybe you are able to pluck one of those role players on the Nets, Royce O'Neal, one of those guys, and you could add them to your roster. Maybe Brooklyn's a team that looks at Jaylen Brown and says, hey, we want in.
Also, going back to Houston, we've been talking about this potential James Harden reunion, which I do expect to happen. I would be surprised at this point if James Harden is not playing for the Rockets again. You have the whole I'm coming home type of moment. Any of this chatter that maybe the Texans are going to go get C.J. Stroud, DeAndre Hopkins, that one, I can't see DeAndre Hopkins going back to the Houston Texans. If you tell me he's going to Cleveland to play with Deshaun Watson, sure. But with the teams that are going to be interested, I know people say Buffalo isn't all in. Let's see what happens there. Kansas City's definitely a team that I could see DeAndre Hopkins going to. Maybe the Jets, even though Robert Saleh denied it the other day. Please, you flirted with Odell Beckham. You'll take a phone call on DeAndre Hopkins. The Patriots have been talked about as well. Baltimore, Lamar wants him. Just talking about those teams, why would you want to go to a place that's finally, even though they've been rebuilding for a while, finally committed to the rebuild where you have a coach, you have a young quarterback, you have a young star pass rusher? It would make zero sense to me why DeAndre Hopkins would want to go back to the Texans. If the Texans are interested, I understand that because you're trying to get a big weapon for your young quarterback in C.J. Stroud, but you can't sell me, if I'm DeAndre Hopkins, about going back to the Houston Texans. Zach Gelb in for Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio. Antonio Daniels, former NBA player, now does a great job for SiriusXM NBA Radio, will join us in 5.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 25 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
If you're just joining us, Perloff is putting the finishing touches on 16 ounces of peanut butter. The man is a legend. Got the closer spoon, and Andrew Perloff, like Usain Bolt, cruising to the finish line. Last bite.
I flew way too close to the sun. Now I'm about to throw up all over the sun. Something feels wrong.
Yeah. Something looks wrong.
I don't feel well.
Ooh.
I'm glad I got through the first jar. That second jar was the biggest mistake of my entire life.
Yeah.
I was doing so good.
It took years off your life. Thank you, Ack, for correcting his grammar.
Ack, honestly, I can choose which way to throw up. I'm definitely going to stop talking about it.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
It is Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio. Zach Gelb in for both Andrew and Maggie on this Friday. Game 1 of the NBA Finals did wrap up last night, as you did have Denver continuing their undefeated home court play this postseason, dominating Game 1. We'll see what happens coming up at Ball Arena in Denver for Game number 2 on Sunday. Let's go out to the guest line right now. Welcoming a man that won an NBA championship with the San Antonio Spurs back in 1999. Now does a great job for SiriusXM NBA Radio. And that, of course, is Antonio Daniels, kind enough to join us. Antonio, how you been?
I'm blessed, Zach. How you doing, brother?
Well, I'm doing fantastic and appreciate you coming on. It is just unreal to watch Denver. I've been someone that's been a believer in them all season. But Antonio, just like in the stretch of just 10 minutes throughout a game, you could be impressed with one player one moment, and then about 10 minutes later, you're impressed with somebody else. I don't see how Miami is going to slow this team down.
I don't either. I picked Denver in 6. My co-host picked Miami in 7. You know, I find so many similarities. And, you know, you always hear comparison is the thief of joy. And I'm not comparing them, but there are so many similarities to me between the Denver Nuggets and the San Antonio Spurs. If you start at the top and you look at Nikola Jokic, there's so many similarities between him and Tim Duncan. Also, they call the Denver Nuggets boring. Right? They call them boring. And I remember hearing that a ton about the San Antonio Spurs when they were in the midst of championship after championship after championship. Just boring, but impactful and yet effective. And the term beautiful basketball that you see when you're watching the Denver Nuggets play, used to use all the time in referencing the way that the San Antonio Spurs move the basketball. Beautiful basketball all the way back then from 1999 all the way up to 2014 to 5 championships. And you see the Denver Nuggets playing a similar style of basketball as the San Antonio Spurs did. Boring, impactful, and yet beautiful all at the same time.
With that being said, and you were a part of it for a little bit in San Antonio, do you think this is the making of a dynasty with the Nuggets?
That's tough to say, because the thing is other teams will improve. Some of these younger teams will get better. And there's no championship team that's ever won a championship without certain things just happen to go their way. And that's the way it goes. That's the way it works. You know, you have other teams now. You have the Phoenix Suns with another year of chemistry together. You have other teams in the Western Conference that will get a little bit more healthy than what they may have been. You have Karl-Anthony Towns that will be with Minnesota for a longer amount of time with Rudy Gobert, with Anthony Edwards. So you can go through different teams in the Western Conference. Dynasty is going to be tough. It's going to be tough to do what the San Antonio Spurs have done, to do what the Golden State Warriors have done in the Western Conference. That's going to be very, very difficult with the talent level in the West.
Talking to Antonio Daniels right now. When you watch Nikola Jokic, you being a part of the league as a player and being a great analyst now, what goes through your mind when you watch him? Because, like, even last night, he was phenomenal, and I didn't even think he was great at scoring the basketball, and he still found a way to have this crazy stat line of 27 points, 14 assists, and 10 rebounds. He never plays a bad game. It's amazing just how consistent he is and how it's just at this high, ridiculous level that no one has an answer for.
I feel like today, Nikola Jokic is the most unstoppable player in the NBA. And let me explain what I mean. I don't think he's the most skilled offensive player, as far as his handle, or he's not the best shooter, or whatever it may be. And by unstoppable, what I'm saying is unstoppable offensively. The fact that he was the best player on the floor last night and only took 12 shots speaks to his dominance. The fact that at the center position, I feel like Nikola Jokic is the best passer in the league. Not the best passer at his position. I'm talking about the best passer in the NBA. So the fact that he can impact the game in so many different ways offensively, that's unstoppable to me. So often we think unstoppable means, well, you know what, I can't stop that guy from scoring. And my thing is, you can't stop Nikola Jokic from impacting the game offensively and making the game very stress-free for his teammates.
And I think the most impressive part about the Joker, he has no ego. He doesn't care if he scores 30, 35 points. He's just as happy dishing out like 15 assists. And that team, he's the tone setter. And that entire team, you don't really see a lot of ego present on the Denver Nuggets.
Well, the thing is you talk about his ability to pass the ball. And he has a point guard mentality. And for me, the point guard position is not a skill set, it's a mindset. It's not the way that you handle the ball. It's the decisions that you see play themselves out in between the four lines, right? And Nikola Jokic, it's a lot of guys that have the skill set to be a point guard in the way that they handle and the way that they could pass. But the mindset is what sets them apart. And the mindset speaks to exactly what you just spoke of. His ability to allow the game to breathe, right? To not force things, knowing that he's the most unstoppable player and the best player on the planet right now. To not force things, to allow his teammates to eat, to get them easy shots. But then when it's time to crank it up a little bit offensively, because he understands that they're not double-teaming him, and then realizing that he has an advantage over whoever he wants to score the basketball, that's what sets him apart. One of the many things that sets him apart.
Antonio Daniels, we'll see if Tyler Hero does give it a go in game number 2. Did you see anything in game number 1 that you look at for game number 2 with Miami and go, okay, we could get a little bit of a game going between these two teams?
No, here's the thing for me. I feel like teams are who they are. And there are certain things that won't change, that you can't change because the way your roster is constructed. Example, the Miami Heat will not get any bigger by Sunday. It won't happen. So they don't have a matchup for someone like Aaron Gordon. They don't have a matchup for someone like Michael Porter, right? Because their perimeter is basically Gabe Vincent, Kyle Lowry, Max Strus, Tyler Hero, if he does indeed go in game 2, Caleb Martin, those kind of guys, Duncan Robinson. None of those guys are physical enough to deal with Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. They don't have the size and physicality. So Miami's not going to grow by Sunday. It's not going to happen, right? And on the other side of it, Miami took 2 free throw attempts in game 1. I get it. Everyone can say, you know what, Miami didn't need to do a better job of attacking the rim. So the question that I'll pose to you, Zach, is who on the Miami Heat, their ability to attack the rim is what they do best outside of Jimmy Butler?
Bam Adebayo.
Does he attack the rim, or is he more of a 5 to 7 foot floater jump shooter?
It's a fair point that you bring up. And Bam's going to have to be great. That was my biggest key for Miami to make this a series. Bam would have to be going from a good player that sometimes shows he could be great to showing the entire series that he could just be a ridiculous player. And I don't think he has that in him for this series.
Right, but the thing is, you're asking, not you, but the world is asking the Miami Heat to be something that they're not. So let's put our heads down and attack the rim. When that's not who Max Strus, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, and Kyle Lowry are. Those guys, and to a testament to those guys, their ability to shoot the ball is why they're here now, right? They have completely outperformed their three-point percentage in the regular season, this postseason. So the three-point shot is one of the main reasons why they're here now. So to say now, like, let's not just set up for three-point shots, let's attack the rim, good luck. Good luck, especially if that's not your identity and who you are.
Antonio Daniels here with us. We all heard what the commissioner, Adam Silver, said the other evening before the game about Ja Morant. Everyone expects there to be a significant suspension. You playing the game, right? You also seeing the game from a different angle as an analyst. If you had to give some advice to Ja Morant right now, what would you say to him?
You just got to surround yourself with better people. And like we're all adults. We've all made mistakes. I get that. The thing that you will never hear me do is give up on a 24-year-old young man. I'm not talking about in the NBA. I'm talking about in life, period, because there's still so much more to learn. But the thing about learning is you actually have to do it. And the question that I have about Ja Morant in this whole situation is when he went away for counseling for 8 or 9 days.
Yeah.
The question that I have is, what did he go away for counseling for? What did he go for? We've never heard that. So usually if you go for counseling, you're diagnosed with something. Okay, I have an addiction to fill in the blank. I have mental illness in this particular area, whatever it may be. But if you're just going to counseling because you're being told to go to counseling, now the counseling is not going to be impactful and not going to take hold. So regardless as to what's happening here with Ja Morant, and I think it's going to be a pretty significant suspension, whatever that suspension is, I would hope one of the requirements of the suspension is why he is suspended to actually spend time in counseling to get diagnosed so he can actually come out of counseling being someone different and transformed.
And that's going to be the biggest thing, Antonio Daniels, is when he gets a suspension, whether it's a half season, a full season, whatever it is his first impulse to fight it through the players union, or is it to actually understand that the suspension is a wake-up call? Because unfortunately, if he keeps on going down this road, it's only going to get worse. And when you're playing with a gun, nothing good is going to come out of it.
But here's the thing, though. The way Adam Silver made it sound, he made it sound as if the Players Association and the NBA were in lockstep already.
We'll see, though. When push comes to shove, we'll see. You would think for the wellness of Ja that the player union wouldn't fight it, but I can't say without a doubt that they won't.
Right, and who knows? I mean, the bigger issue for me here is for that young man to get help and get right. That's all, because that ball's going to stop bouncing. That ball's going to stop bouncing. And it comes to a point in our life where growth isn't linear. You know, so the light comes on for different people, different players at different times in their careers and at different times of their life. And what Ja Morant has to understand is what's at risk here. And I'm not even talking about financially. I'm talking about the fact that he has a daughter. He has millions of kids, young kids, black, white, Asian, whatever possible ethnicity that you want to throw out there that really look up to. And he is an influential young man, very influential young man. And I just hope, I don't know what he's been diagnosed with. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have not a clue. But I hope that he gets the help that he needs to be truly transformed. And I'm going to tell you the one thing I do know, though, Zach. I know that 8 days or 9 days or 10 days of counseling is not enough to transform, because true transformation is impossible without discomfort. You have to actually get away and put yourself in an environment that's not comfortable to come back different, changed, and transformed.
That's why I kind of think it should be an indefinite suspension, and the league gives him things that he has to cross off to make sure that they feel like he's in a better place before they think about putting him back on a basketball court.
I tell you what's weird about that is when you give people a checklist, they'll do whatever they need to do
as quick as possible. Yeah.
Right. So now it's no longer about the transformation. It's about the checklist. It's no longer about, you know what, I really need to change. It's about the checklist. You know, and anytime, all right, well, I did this, check that off. I did this, check that off. Regardless as to if that counseling is really, truly taking effect or not. We don't know that because what Adam Silver was led to believe is after his first time going to counseling that this was going to be different. After his first time going. And here we are.
Antonio Daniels, when you get to the Phoenix Suns hiring Frank Vogel, how'd you react to that one today?
You know, my thing with that is it's weird to hear coaches, championship coaches, with great cachet and resume, and that walk through the door, and the moment they walk through the door, they bring respect with them, drop their names out of the running. So it makes you think. So when you look at someone like Nick Nurse, right? Because he took his name out of the Phoenix Suns job as the Doc Rivers.
But did Doc really, or was it just Doc not getting the job, and that's how he wanted to spin from an optics standpoint?
But here's the thing. This is why I say that. Because is it a case of Ishbia versus the organization of, so like, for example, Nick Nurse. Did it have anything to do with Joel Embiid and James Harden versus Kevin Durant and Devin Booker? Or was it Ishbia versus Daryl Morey, right? Knowing that I have a relationship with Daryl Morey, knowing that I may have a little bit more say in the organization in Philly, I may have a little bit more freedom and control. And if I'm Doc Rivers and I'm walking into the situation in Phoenix and Ishbia is telling me he wants to do this, and this, and yet my job is just to simply sit there and coach, maybe I'm not okay with that. And again, right now, Zach, I'm speculating, but to see two championship coaches, two guys that have won Coach of the Year, remove their names from the hat as far as the Phoenix Suns are concerned, I don't look at the players, right? I don't look at Devin Booker and Kevin Durant because those are two guys that are extremely talented and love the game of basketball. Chris Paul, one of the best leaders and floor generals in the sport. I look at what has happened since. There's a reason that Ishbia fired Monty Williams, right? New ownership, new way of running things, and I wonder if some of these coaches are on board with that.
Last thing I'll ask you, Antonio Daniels, because whenever I talk to a former Spur, it seems like they're always afraid to answer this question because you don't want to go against Pop, and Pop has deserved the right when he's going to walk away and call it quits. But now getting Victor Wembanyama, is Popovich ever going to retire, or is he just going to coach until he's no longer on the planet?
I mean, the thing is, I tell you what's wild about Pop. I'm San Antonio's home for me, Zach. I'm here now. I tell Spurs fans all the time, I feel like Pop has earned the right to retire and walk away when he wants to walk away. And if he does walk away, there are a couple of players and coaches that are tied to Pop's tree that it wouldn't surprise me to see them replace him if he indeed does walk away. Someone like Mike Budenholzer. Someone like Mike Budenholzer, Steve Kerr, yeah, those kind of guys. And Victor Wembanyama is a great building block. That's a great place to start. But what people have to understand is Victor Wembanyama is not stepping into the same situation that Tim Duncan stepped into, right? What he's stepping into is completely different. Young team, inexperienced, and San Antonio had to tear this whole thing apart just to have an opportunity to acquire Victor Wembanyama. They got him. Now they can start rebuilding with him.
Antonio Daniels, great stuff as always. Sirius XM NBA Radio. He does a show with Rick Campbell. Make sure you check it out. Antonio, thank you as always.
For sure. Appreciate you, brother.
Coming on back, Maggie and Perloff right here, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
It's time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by our good friends at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Today's question, Is what, Michael Samter? What we got cooking?
Well, our good friend David over in Kansas City wants to know.
I love Kansas City, by the way. Before you ask the question, I know that you had daddy duty with you welcoming in, you and your beautiful bride welcoming in a beautiful baby girl. I did miss you. Even though Stu was great, I love Stu. And Stu was wonderful on the trip. We had a great time. You know, they allowed Hickey, for some reason, to go to Kansas City. When we go away on these trips, like Samter and I usually go somewhere to get a great meal, and we spend a ridiculous amount of money, and the company's like, why are you spending that much money? What are you doing? Come on, guys. You don't need to spend a meal that's ridiculous. You would have loved Kansas City. And I said, I kind of miss Samter not being here. So your presence was missed.
We would have had some good barbecue. That's for sure.
That place, Jack Stacks, unbelievable.
Yeah,
the burnt ends.
You're making me jealous. Well, anyway, so David in Kansas City wants to know, obviously my Chiefs are the defending champions, but who are actually Super Bowl contenders this year? Who are teams that you think can actually make a case to run to the Super Bowl and win a title?
And we'll get to that in just a second, but don't forget you could submit a question by going to cbssportsradio.com/askthepros or tweeting it at CBS Sports Radio using the hashtag #AskThePros, and make sure you think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I'm pretty strict for allowing teams into the Super Bowl contender window and the conversation. So real quickly, I will play you this, and then I'll answer the question. Alan Lazard did say recently that he expects a Super Bowl with the New York Jets. Listen up to the newest Jets wide receiver.
I'm expecting the Super Bowl. You know, I'm not afraid to say that. That's something that I've been starving for, to be able to get to that big dance, to be able to play in it, and to be able to hold that trophy at the end of the day. But in reality, we're focused on getting better every single day. You know, we can't win the Super Bowl today. We can't win Game 1 today.
So I think a lot of people hear Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets this offseason, and right away some people go, Super Bowl. I can't say that. Did Aaron Rodgers go to a better situation this year in terms of roster construction? Yeah. But look at the AFC. They're loaded, absolutely loaded with great quarterbacks and really damn good teams. And I look at Aaron Rodgers, what's been his biggest problem the last few years? Regular season. Oh, fantastic. Wonderful. Back-to-back MVPs before this past year where he had the thumb injury and the Packers missed the playoffs and he had that horrible throw up against Detroit Lions at legendary Lambeau Field. But Aaron Rodgers, when he had an easier path than what he does have right now, when he was in the NFC, had the number 1 seed twice in recent memory. And up against the San Francisco 49ers, touchdown right out of the gate, nothing after that. Had Alan Lazard wide open, and he elected to make an ill-advised throw to Devontae Adams when he's still his wide receiver. The year prior to that, number 1 seed, home field advantage, NFC title game at Lambeau Field. Tom Brady did everything in his power. As much as I love Tom Brady, Brady did everything in his power to blow that game. Interception after interception after interception in the second half. And Rodgers, down 5 twice, had the ball, 3 and out. And then towards the end of the game, when they're down by 8, everyone crushes LaFleur for that idiotic decision to kick the field goal. But the team stalled again in the red zone. So I look at the Jets as a team that are really good, but they got to prove something to me first. And I got to see Rodgers show up in the big moments in the postseason. So right now, I have the Jets on the outside looking in as a Super Bowl contender. Now, if I'm a Jets player, if I'm a Jets fan, of course, you're screaming, Super Bowl, here we go. But Zach Gelb, the talk show host, Zach Gelb giving you the Super Bowl contenders, the Jets right now aren't a Super Bowl contender to me. So I'll give you my 5. And I'm really strict with this. I try to give you 6 each and every year. 3 in the AFC, 3 in the NFC. The problem is I don't have a third team in the NFC that I really believe in. So my 5 Super Bowl contenders right now entering the 2023 season. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. Does that need an explanation? 15-87 and Andy Reid. There's your explanation. If you can't figure that out, go drown your head in some Kansas City barbecue sauce. The Cincinnati Bengals. See them get to a Super Bowl 2 years ago. Seen them get to an AFC title game, and really the only team that has been able to slay Kansas City. I know they just lost the AFC title game to them, but before that, they won an AFC title game and also were on a 3-game winning streak up against the Chiefs. And the last team in the AFC, it's still Buffalo. I don't want to say the word sleeping on Buffalo, but I think a lot of people are now off the Bills bandwagon. And I saw Diana Rossini say the other day they're not all in on DeAndre Hopkins. They should be. I think that's a mistake if they don't go out there to try to narrow the gap and limit that gap between the Chiefs and Bengals, who are better than them, and go get DeAndre Hopkins. You add him into wide receiving room that already has Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. But Buffalo still, even though the AFC East got better with Miami, and maybe they're going to get Dalvin Cook, the Jets getting Aaron Rodgers, I'm not a believer in my Patriots this year. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But Buffalo is still that third best team in the AFC. And then when you get to the NFC, it's very simple. It's the Eagles, one. And the 49ers have shown you, even with having a lot of ambiguity with their quarterback situation, their roster with Deebo Samuel, with Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, and then defensively looking at a roster that's just loaded, Nick Bosa, and you could go on and on and on and on and on when you look at the 49ers roster. They're a championship team, but until they get clarity at their quarterback situation, I don't think they'll win a Super Bowl, but they're in contention for it each and every year. So my 5 Super Bowl contenders this year: Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, Eagles, 49ers. Now, Samter, I know you're a big Jets fan. I know that you like to try to pump up your team, and now you actually have a case to be made. Do you have any problem with me leaving anybody out there when I tell you my 5 Super Bowl contenders to answer the Ask the Pros question are Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo, Philadelphia, and San Francisco?
I think there's no doubt that those are the 5 frontrunners, but there's like 5 or 6 tier 2 teams that I think have a shot at a Super Bowl. We'll just see how the season goes. Like the Dolphins, for example, if they stay healthy, huge if.
If Tua stays healthy.
Tua stays healthy, huge if, which he's never been able to do.
They almost beat Buffalo last year with Skylar Thompson in that.
That team is stacked offensively and defensively. I mean, if Tua can stay healthy, they are a contender. The Jets could be a contender, but I'm skeptical. Just something about Aaron Rodgers frightens me. And I know we talk about their defense.
What frightens you about Aaron Rodgers? He's the best quarterback you guys have ever had.
Yeah, no, you're right. But
it's not a long list, let's be real.
No,
but
I was just thinking back. Like,
in terms of
we did
great
have Favre
quarterbacks
for a year, and I always battled between Favre and Rodgers, and who was better at that point in their career. Because Favre, when he came back to Minnesota after the Jets, was fantastic.
Well, he got to the NFC Championship game and then threw away the NFC title game. And got off to a good start with the Jets until he got injured.
But until I see them on the field, I'm skeptical about putting the Jets there because there's just something about Rodgers and that defense. While I love them, there's nowhere to go for them but back. I don't think that they can get better than they were last year, especially as young as they were. But we'll see.
Well, I do. Here's why. Having a better offense is going to put defense in a better position.
For sure. But also sometimes having a better offense makes the defense feel a little complacent because they don't have to be perfect all the time. When you know you have to step up game in and game out because the offense is terrible, it kind of gives you an added level of motivation.
Okay.
But we'll see. Listen, we'll see. I'm not ready to put the Jets there yet. The Ravens, I think, again, if Lamar stays healthy, could be a team that makes a run. The Browns are interesting. They added Elijah Moore. Sean Watson's going to be there for the full year.
They may get Hopkins.
They may get Hopkins. The defense is stacked. Myles Garrett, if he stays healthy. So the Browns, again, one of those teams. And the Jaguars. That division is going to be terrible. They're going to win 11, 12 games just because the division is bad. And the Jaguars, if Trevor Lawrence continues on his trajectory.
And you have Peterson.
Could legitimately be a guy that a team that you could see making a run. You can't count out Justin Herbert. Every year he gets better and better.
Yeah, but Staley stinks.
Yeah, and there's questions. There's a lot of other question marks about that team, but they made so many offseason moves last year. If any of them improve on what they did last year, J.C. Jackson and Khalil Mack and all these guys, if they make a little bit of a step forward, they're going to be a team to reckon with.
No one in the NFC you mentioned so far.
Well, I'm kind of going down the list.
Yeah.
Again, the Cowboys are one of those teams that, like, every year.
They're good in the regular season. Come postseason time, expect the drama Dallas choking Cowboys to do that.
But in a weak NFC, And with the 49ers, every year the quarterback gets hurt. Could I see the Cowboys making a run? Sure. Giants suck. Commanders suck. Vikings suck. Lions, I love.
Wait. The Giants and Commanders don't suck.
They suck.
They don't. The Giants just made the playoffs last year. They got to the second round.
Yeah, the Giants suck.
And no, I'm sorry. And I'm not even the biggest Giant fan in the world, obviously. It would have shocked me if they regress a bit this year. But the Commanders have a good roster, too. They have a solid roster.
Solid roster. They suck. The Giants suck. The Giants are terrible. Daniel Jones is not going to do anything. Last year was a mirage. It was an anomaly. It was a team that had an easy schedule.
I'm calling a timeout here. I'm calling a timeout because I see CeeLo is just rolling his eyes at you right now. CeeLo, now this is years and years and years of frustration of Samter being little brother in New York, and he's just trying to take it out right now because he feels like his football team will be okay.
Legitimately believe the Giants have a chance of being a contending team in the NFC?
A Super Bowl contending team, no, but there's a difference in saying they suck.
Yes, that was why I was rolling my eyes. This team sucks. This guy sucks. So-and-so
sucks. Put it this way. The
Fine.
definition of being a team that's, in your word, sucks this year is the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, the Cardinals
That's
are
a team
be
that
terrible.
sucks.
Fine. The Giants don't suck. They won
Your
9
opinion
games.
there sucked.
The Giants were 9-7-1. If they won 8 games this year, I would be shocked. I think the Giants are a 5-6, maybe 7-win team.
Wow.
So to me, in my eyes, that means that they kind of suck. But fine, they don't suck. They're below average.
Okay.
There you go. Packers are going to be, we'll see. Bears are going to be terrible. The entire NFC South is going to be terrible. The NFC West is going to be terrible. Like, the NFC is just bad.
Let's just fast forward to January. I mean, why bother with the regular season?
No, but
so much for feeling good on a Friday. Man.
Like, the Panthers maybe could be good if Bryce Young really balls out.
Wait. The Panthers maybe could be good this year? Who's he throwing the football to?
Yeah. I mean, their defense is good. If Bryce Young is what they think that he could be, then maybe
not
they
in
could,
year
in
one.
that division, maybe they could. But again, like I'm saying,
You have an overrated coach there,
I'm
Frank
reaching,
Reich.
I'm stretching to try to find anything. Like the Lions, I love the Lions. I love Dan Campbell, but like 9 or 10 wins at best, maybe 11. But like, and the Vikings, come on.
You know the team that you're leaving off this list? That I wouldn't call them a Super Bowl contender. But if we want to say who's the third best team in the NFC, it could be Seattle.
Maybe.
If Geno Smith doesn't regress in a bit, you look at that roster. We know what they have in the secondary. We'll see if the corners, is able to get healthy. But you look at the offensive side of the ball. They have Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. They just drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba. You have Kenneth Walker, and you just drafted the UCLA running back in Zach Charbonnet. If Geno Smith just doesn't have a massive fall from grace, and he just earned himself a 3-year contract, but just because you get the money doesn't mean that you're going to be a stud. You look at the NFC where it's Philadelphia and then it's also the 49ers and everybody else. I would trust Seattle more with Pete Carroll than I would with Dallas.
Yeah, you're probably right. They're probably the 3 or 4. Maybe the Cowboys are the 3. But none of these teams are inspiring to me. I mean, maybe the Saints surprise with Derek Carr quarterback.
Derek Carr, big moment.
Again, that division is just so bad. Any of those 4 teams can win the division.
Okay.
And
so Samson just gave us the all 32 pretty much right there.
No, I'm going
real
down
quickly.
team by team.
Look, I'm going to simplify this. I just gave you the 5 Super Bowl contenders. I'm going to go around the room. Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, 49ers. If you had to give me one more team, we'll go around the room. Who's the team that you go with for that 6th spot? Since CeeLo just let out a noise that didn't get picked up on the microphone, I will not go to CeeLo
It sounded
first.
something like this.
Yeah. Jeez. Man, the Maggie and Perloff show just got rated R right there. I don't know. You can't see CeeLo on camera right now. I don't know what the heck he was doing.
That was I'm full, and I don't know how to answer this question.
Okay. EJ, who's your team? Who would you go with outside of Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, and the 49ers?
You're going to roll your eyes, but I'm going Dallas.
How about them Cowboys? Okay.
I mean, you got Gilmore. At a certain point, the experience of losing, you think that eventually your time comes.
Their defense is really good, but
really
Dak,
is good.
Dak the last 2 years has let them down in the postseason. Samter, who do you go with?
I'm battling between the Ravens and the Jaguars. I'm going to go Jaguars just because the Ravens, there's too many question marks, but their upside, I think, is way up there. I'm going to go Jaguars. I mean, what we saw last year, they almost made a couple surprising. I mean, they
got to the second round,
and they looked good in that second round. Also, like I think the Jaguars have an opportunity if they just keep moving up in that direction. they could surprise some teams.
CeeLo?
Jaguars was the first team that popped into my head. And then I was thinking, it's kind of got to be an NFC team, right? Because of how stacked the AFC is. But
your odds probably suggest that.
I would say that. But if we're just talking about a team to add to the list, like at some point, don't the Chargers have to break through at some point when
they
you
got
consider
a lot of talent.
how much talent they have?
And they just added Quentin Johnston, too.
I know the track record. I understand all that. I don't love the head coach, but there is a lot of firepower assembled there. At some point, they've got to at least threaten and make some noise here in the playoffs.
I hate to agree with Samter, but I'm on the Jaguar train, where I think they're a dark horse to maybe go make the Super Bowl this year. Doug Peterson.
Why do you have to agree with me, by the way? I'm right about everything.
Because usually when people agree with you, Samter, you end up being wrong. Let's just be clear here. Most of the producers around here at CBS Sports Radio, they all have these great opinions, and they all end up being wrong most of the time. The hosts too sometimes.
Just don't lump me with Hickey.
Yeah, I think you're burned by Hickey. You're over Hickey. We're all of us with Hickey at this point.
Yeah, that's some Hickey PTSD right there. There's no doubt about that with the Hickey Hex and all the hot takes that he's throwing out there and doing these videos of him putting out these takes in the shower.
Speaking of rated R.
Yeah. Have you seen those videos?
I actually,
CeeLo?
this morning, for the first time, it kind of graced my timeline. And I was like, what do we got going on here?
Yeah, I like the name of it, Shower No Cap.
Yeah.
But when it's just a generic sports take in the shower, I need like a rubber ducky. I need some theatrics with it.
Yeah, that's fair. See, the first thing I thought of when I saw it was Kramer and Seinfeld preparing the salad while in the shower. But then his point, though, is like his best ideas are in the shower. And I have that happen a lot, too, where like if I'm going to go host like an overnight show locally here on WFAN in New York, and I have a lot of great thoughts in my head, and then once I throw the mic on and it's time to go, like it doesn't flow as well.
That's why you never do a monologue in the shower.
Yeah.
Because you'll never be able. That's the most comfortable you
can't
are.
replicate it.
Yeah.
I have it a lot in the car driving in.
Not to get too graphic, and maybe I'll get a call from management for saying this. I don't know. If Hickey's taking those videos in the shower, he's got to feel confident with what he's working with. In case if there's a reflection or something ends up happening, I think he would be fine with getting that shown out there publicly. Because that would be like anyone's fear. You're doing this video from the shoulder up, and the next thing you know, there's some reflection, and then your Johnson gets shown.
Now, I didn't take note. Was the water running while it was?
Oh, he's putting out the water in his hair. The water's running. I'm assuming he's not wearing anything down there.
I was going to say, like, we're only seeing, maybe just to be safe, he's got like a bathing suit on or something. You know?
Imagine.
I mean, that's how they do it in Hollywood.
I'll have to check with him.
Oh, also, real quickly, how many kids do you have?
Two boys, 7 and 4.
I'm going to give you the Josh Hart question. Have you ever tried your wife's breast milk?
I have not, nor have I had any desire to. The last couple of days, I've been involved on multiple shows here on the network where that's been discussed. Tom DeCelestino, of course, who works on the other side of the glass on the earlier programs. Mm-hmm. Right. So he admitted that he has, and his reasoning was, well, you got to check the temperature to make sure it's right. I'm like, everybody else checks it on their arm. Yeah. Like, why do you have to taste it? If you're interested, if you're curious and you want to taste it, that's fine. You do your own thing. But don't use the temperature excuse as the cop-out, because there's a way around that.
Samter hasn't tried it. I said maybe we should do a radio bit today. His wife brings us in some breast milk, and we all tried it.
I would support that. I mean, I think maybe just him. I don't know.
Nobody else can drink somebody else's wife's
Watch
breast
it there,
milk.
CeeLo.
That might be crossing the line a little bit.
And to no surprise, I know we have to take a break. Mraz informed me that he did try his wife's breast milk multiple times.
Yeah. There's nothing edible on this planet that Mraz hasn't or isn't willing to try.
He's got it like stowed in the freezer for holidays and stuff.
They're going to be serving that up at Bob's Bar for the DA show coming up on June 16th. All righty, here's CeeLo with the latest CBS Sports Radio update.
Sports Flash.
And speaking of food and drink, shake up dinner with HelloFresh with 40 weekly recipe options. There's always something new to try. Get 16 free meals plus free shipping with code SKATE16 at HelloFresh.com/SKATE16. Frank Vogel, after he was let go by the Lakers last April, sat out this NBA season, but now appears to have landed his latest head coaching gig. According to multiple reports, the Phoenix Suns are finalizing a 5-year deal to make Vogel their new leading man after they parted ways with Monty Williams last month. The Dodgers and the Diamondbacks deadlocked atop the National League West heading into the weekend and tonight's action. Arizona on a 5-game winning streak. They're home for the Braves, while L.A. welcomes the Yankees to Chavez Ravine for an interleague showdown. Luis Severino opposed by Clayton Kershaw in tonight's opener. Two-time champ Novak Djokovic into the 4th round of the French Open. A straight sets victory over Spanish 29 seed Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. Djokovic aiming to leapfrog injured champ Rafael Nadal. Had to write that out phonetically. And win a 23rd Grand Slam title. Golf, second round play of the Memorial. Justin Suh just birdied the 18th hole for a 6 under 66. That gets him to 8 under par overall, good for a one-shot lead over Hideki Matsuyama and 2 ahead of Patrick Cantlay and David Lipsky. I'm Chris Lopresti.
Hey, it's Amy Lawrence. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Just ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio. It's time for the Casamigos shot of the day.
He shoots!
So, by the way, I love Casamigos. Lee Einsiedler is an absolute great human being, and he just sent me 2 bottles of Casamigos, so I'll probably be having some Casamigos tonight, especially since I'm not going to have to be here on CBS Sports Radio from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern. I actually probably should have brought in a bottle, guys, and we probably all should have taken a shot together. So next time I fill in, I may need some more Casamigos, Lee, because let's be real. The next time I fill in, I'm going to imagine I'll quickly go through those 2 bottles of Casamigos. But the shot of the day is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos is brought to you by those who drink it. And the shot of the day does come from a conversation that we had with Mike Breen, who's calling the NBA Finals, of course. And here's how it did go. Do you think that was the last game you called for LeBron?
No. I think he's going to play more. I hope he does, because look at the numbers he put up this year. He put up numbers this year in his 20th season that some Hall of Fame players didn't put up in their best season. He's one of the most remarkable athletes in the history of sports.
So if we got an alert this offseason, you would be shocked if he ended up retiring and walking away?
I would. I think he still loves playing. He's still playing at a great level. So I would be surprised, yes.
And there's no way, and there, of course, is the Casamigos shot of the day. There is no way LeBron James is retiring this offseason. I know that he is going to need the surgery. I would be stunned with still how well he plays and just coming off of year 20. And even when LeBron starts to regress a drop, he's still better, and he's even said it, than 95% of the players in the league. I don't know about you guys, but if we get an alert this offseason that LeBron is walking away, my jaw would hit the floor.
I agree. And I think, honestly, like the whole Bronny thing, like that's been his goal forever.
Yeah, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Giving up on that.
I don't think he'll ever play with Bronny, because I'm just speculating here. He did walk back the Bronny comments where he said, that may be my dream, but I've come to grips with it, something along the lines of, paraphrasing here, that it may not be what Bronny wants. And just alluding to that tells me maybe Bronny was like, Dad, it would be awesome if we could play basketball together, but like, as great as LeBron is, and we all know LeBron's one of the greatest players of all time, Bronny's always going to have to live in the shadow of LeBron James. And that's got to be tough on Bronny when you go into a locker room and you're trying to create your own path and find your own way. If Dad is literally in the locker room, and that even adds more, storylines of potentially, is Bronny really in the NBA because he's deserving of it, or is it more so because LeBron James is his father and LeBron wanted to play 1 year of basketball with his son?
And even if LeBron is just playing in the league at the same time as Bronny, guarding Bronny.
Oh, yeah.
Posting up Bronny.
Imagine going up against one another.
Like that, I still think could be part of the dream. Like that'd
be fun.
If Bronny's like, listen, you know what, being on the same team might be a little bit too much. I want to create my own legacy myself. Fine.
Yeah.
But if Bronny's on the Lakers, or LeBron's on the Lakers, and Bronny's on the Heat, or whatever it ends up being, that'd be fantastic. Now, real quick, I know we only have about a minute and a half left in the show. There's something you haven't noticed. Just turn around and look behind you, buddy.
Oh, my goodness
It's
gracious.
back!
No!
It's back!
No!
It's back!
No!
I knew I was going to sneak it in without you noticing.
You know what? I just
Carson
realized
Wentz has
that.
been sitting over your shoulder this whole segment, staring over your shoulder.
Did you just do that during the break?
I don't know when I did it. It just happened.
I put that down as the doormat. And I just realized I went to go step on it, and it wasn't there.
Yeah. He's been judging you.
Now,
this
perfect
entire
time to say,
10 minutes.
make sure you subscribe to the CBS Sports Radio YouTube page so we can actually set that Carson Wentz poster on fire. But, geez Louise, how Why would you do that? I'm trying to have a good Friday.
That looked like something from like a horror movie.
Yeah.
When you turned around, your face and the scream you let off, that could have been on, Scream 5 or whatever movie they're on now.
You don't think LeBron is retiring, right, DJ? Quickly, I know we only got like a minute.
I don't think so. And in fact, I think that a lot of this whole stuff, it was him, maybe kind of, I think he wants to be like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. I think he kind of liked that conversation. Like, those guys kept themselves in the
want to be a little bit of a drama whore.
Yeah, I think he kind of wanted to get people talking about him.
I really do believe, and I know I got to wrap it up, but I really do believe that this could be LeBron's final year. That he'll play this year, then when Bronny comes into the league, he'll be very mellow-like, passing the torch to your son. Great job by EJ. Great job by Samter. Obviously, CeeLo on the updates as well. Each and every one of you, right? The Weedos and the Purple Drinkers, too. That's what Maggie, of course, says. And Maggie and Perloff will be back on Monday. Big thanks to Antonio Daniels, Mike Breen for stopping by as well. We out. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend, everybody. Peace!